Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Was Never Born? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. You're always so close to him. Almost too close for his liking, but he doesn't want you to leave. You talk too loud and you're so smart and too DMN pretty. He doesn't like it, the feeling in his chest when you're near. His heart feels like it's pounding against his ribcage and he can hear everything, like right now, when you're giggling into your palm when Kaminari said something so stupid it's funny. He escapes his mouth and he sticks his tongue in his cheek, and a tinge of jealousy erupts in his stomach because why the hell couldn't you laugh at his jokes? Not that he made any, but he's definitely going to start. Kaminari is such a moron sometimes. You mumble to him, a short burst of a chuckle ending your sentence. Your proximity alongside him is making him lose his DMN mind. He can't hold your hand, he can't hold your waist. Your scent reaches his nose and it's a mix of vanilla and laundry detergent and it smells amazing. Sheet, that's weird. All he can do is just manage a grunt as a reply and look at the ground. Bakugo-kun, you alright? You ask, now in front of him with a concerned look in your eyes. Out of the corner of his own, he can see Kirishima and Siro making kissing faces at him and laughing. I'm fine. His low voice is strained and instead of dealing with you and your stupid pretty face and nice perfume, he stalks off towards the two to shove their faces in the pavement. He wasn't one to deal with his feelings well or in the right way. This was something he'd come to terms with and he was sure everyone else knew too. Rather than outright telling you he liked you, he decided it'd be better if he shoved all his lovey-dum feelings to the back of his mind and focus on training and school. The only problem with that, however, is that you were always on his mind no matter what task he was doing. What are you doing? How are you? Did you encounter a villain, and if so, did you kick its butt? He had a million questions in his brain, all roaming around and clouding up his conscience, but one stood out the most. Do you like me too? Sitting at home and doing his homework was all he could think of as an excuse to not hang out with you, and your voice on the phone sounded pretty bleak after he denied. Hell, he could have just ignored the call, but because it was you, he felt somewhat of an obligation to answer. If it was anyone else, they would have been sent straight to voicemail. As much as he hated anything making you upset, he had to find out a way to make his feelings stop. This included cutting off all contact, exchanging short replies, and denying any advances you made to go and talk to him. It's been 3 days since he last spoke to you, and his patience was running on a tight thread. You were one of his closest friends. How could he just ditch you like this? The more time passed by, the more he felt this was a bad idea. Kirishima even chased him down after school, asking why he'd been avoiding her and that she's been worried. That's not very manly, Bakugo, he scolds after a blunt explanation. Women are very understanding, I'm sure if you dash. Bakugo-kun, you jackass. A shout from a little ways up the sidewalk makes the pair freeze, and Bakugo considers making a run for it but he knows that'll make it worse. He realizes in the few seconds it takes for you to run to him that the whole reason for him evading you is fear of rejection. What if you didn't return his feelings? He sure as hell didn't want to be just friends with you, so if you couldn't be his girlfriend, he'd rather not have you at all. He couldn't handle it. Kirishima is watching with wide eyes and a dumbfounded look as you shove your pointer finger into Bakugo's chest, with assertive and aggressive eyes so unlike you. You better have a damn good reason as to why you've been ignoring me. This whole thing was just a mess to Bakugo. One whole shitty mess that's all his fault because his pride got in the way. The spiky redhead gives an encouraging thumbs up to his friend before scattering off, probably to watch from a much safer distance. He scowls at him, his anger levels rising, and now you're fuming and accusing him of something he actually did but didn't want to be called out for. So he said, I've been busy. Bullshit. If he's gonna say it, he should say it right. All that rehearsing in the mirror wasn't for nothing, god damn it. Sheet, fine. Your stupid pea-pretty smile annoys me and it makes me feel like dash. He stumbles over his words, like all weird and sheet. Look, you did this to me and you made me do it. That didn't exactly come out the way he wanted it to, and guessing by your confused expression you didn't even understand it. Although he's hopelessly in denial, he's fully aware of what that weird feeling is. It's just not in his vocabulary to say it out loud. A loud groan follows, and he's clutching his head in frustration. I like you, damn it. The next few seconds are killing him as he waits for a response, already mentally preparing himself for any type of rejection he might face. His arms are crossed and red eyes can't keep themselves off of your irritated face. That's it, you explosive JRK? I can't believe you wasted all that time when we could have been going on dates and stuff. You're terrible. Bakugo really doesn't think he heard right. Maybe it's his mind being incredibly convincing. But when your arms wrap around his neck, he stumbles back and his instinct is to push you away, yet he doesn't want to. Your chest is pressed against his and it makes his cheeks flare up. All he can do is stand there like a giant awkward idiot. Dates? Yeah, you pull away with that same disgustingly cute grin, spend time together? Hanging out. Kirishima and Shiro can be heard snickering by the bushes. Seriously, Bakugo, you're so dense. Shut the hell up, you shitty extras. So, what now? He'd confessed, you gave him a somewhat direct response, and even so, he didn't think he'd get this far. What was the proper protocol here? Walk me home. Your voice was sweet and there was no way in hell he could say no, so he nods and follows your skipping footsteps, but not without one last glare towards his idiot classmates. The journey, for the most part, was quiet on his end, with you mumbling about your day and him offering a hum every now and then. Bakugo wanted nothing more than to hold your hand, but settled on shoving his hands in his pockets. If you two were dating now, shouldn't he be able to do that with no problem? He didn't even know. Hold on a dimmin' minute, he interrupts your monologue, stopping a few steps short of you. Are we together or what? You send him a perplexed look before rolling your eyes, a small, sympathetic smile on your lips as if you were silently mocking him for not understanding right away. Wow, nothing gets past you, eh? Huh. During class time, rather than focusing on the lecture, all his attention was on you. He knew it was important for his grades to be high, being in a competition with Kaminari for the most consecutive A's on exams and all, but he couldn't keep his eyes from drifting off the board too. You were slouched over, pen in hand and scribbling notes, and despite the view being half of your face, it was enough for him to admire the slope of your nose and the curve of your lips. A smile played on his own, his thoughts picturing and imagining the feeling of kissing you. She looks like the type of girl to like Muji products, he thinks, that'd be a nice gift. A pointy object was felt on the side of his head a few moments later, and while whipping his head around to the culprit who poked the pencil at him, he rubs his neck. Shiro was stifling a laugh as the professor scanned the room before continuing, a glare unlike his usual bored and somewhat pained expression painting his features. Giving one last glance at you, he stubbornly paid attention for the rest of class, encouraging himself to finally talk to you afterwards. Seriously, Kirishima? I didn't know you had a little crush. Shiro slaps his shoulder, bursting into a teasing chuckle. Hey, not too loud. He spies you packing your notebooks into your backpack off to the side, conversing with Yaoruzu and grinning. I have to get home so I can change before work, but I can text you the notes later. You smile gladly. Kirishima's stomach erupted in butterflies. Thank you. Have a good evening. Mineta must have followed the two boys' line of sight, because he began nudging the redhead, eyes shining. Ah, girl talk is so cute, right? Don't touch me. Leaving his friend and the other nuisance behind, he hurried after you, shouting your name until you stopped and turned at the stairwell. All of a sudden he was nervous. It wasn't like he's never talked to girls before, he's just never spoken to one he liked so much. Your quirk was unique and strong, something he admired greatly and praised you for to his friends, and you were cute and so smart. You were practically out of his league and he never mustered up the courage to talk to you about the most basic things like homework. The most interaction he had with you was when you both were placed in a group of 4 to work on a presentation. Even then he was a gushing mess. Oh, Kirishima-kun. It was obvious that you were surprised by your tone and raised eyebrows, and that increased his anxiety and made his cheeks flush when you said his name. Hey, Name-chan. He rubbed the back of his neck, a nervous habit. Do you mind tutoring me after class sometime? You see, I'm having a lot of trouble with English, and I need someone to double-check my essay before I turn it in. Wow, I hope that sounded convincing. English was the only subject he was doing exceptional in. Ah, I already offered to help out Kaminari-kun. You can join us if you wanted though. We were planning on meeting this Friday. He felt his heart sink to his stomach, ready to apologize and excuse himself, until you smiled brightly after a few moments of studying his reaction. You probably saw his disappointed face and took pity on him. If you needed it done soon, I get off at 9 if you want to come over to the coffee shop I work at. It's pretty close by, you offer. Man, you were so kind to everyone. Even Bakugo, who took your compassion and shoved it out the window. Yeah, that'd be great. I'll see you there. Don't keep me waiting. You send him what he interpreted as a flirtatious smirk, the curve of your lips revealing pearly white teeth that disappeared as you descended down the stairs, tossing your scarf over your shoulder and adjusting your bag. That night, he arrived a couple minutes early just for good measure, ruffling his hair to get rid of any excess snow that might have got stuck on the sharp edges, the bell of the glass door alerting you of his presence. As soon as you laid eyes on him, you smiled gracefully and skipped over to the opened bar, leaning down and holding your arms together across your torso for comfort. Would you like anything, Kirishima-kun? I don't mind. It's pretty late for coffee, isn't it? He chuckles, removing his fleece-lined jacket. How do you sleep at night? I usually stay up late to study, but anyway, we have non-caffeinated options. Like our hot chocolate, you suggest, jutting your thumb to motion to the steaming pot on the stove. It's a family recipe. Pretty good if I say so myself. I'll take your word for it. How much? You hum, tapping your fingers on the counter while pouring the hot beverage, contemplating for a few moments and looking around for anyone who might hear. It was just you both in the shop, so you decide promptly. Don't worry about it. He can't stop his red eyes from traveling down your body, thinking how nice your butt looks in those tight khaki briefs with your black apron accentuating your waistline. Be careful, Kiri, it's hot. I'll say. He pulls out his laptop from his bag and waits for it to load while you untie your apron and hang it on an anchor that sits on the wall, sighing in relief as you clock out. What's your essay over? Your inquiring eyes glance at his screen before watching him click and tap, searching for his completed essay in his saved files. His crimson eyes scatter around anxiously and laughs, almost embarrassed. Oh, miss, don't judge me, all right? You nod. I chose a topic about violence in video games and if it's beneficial or damaging. Sounds interesting. What's your verdict? Why don't you see for yourself? Kirishima tilts the computer in your direction. Your eyes swipe left to right as you read, paragraph by paragraph. It was all thoroughly researched and with designated citations. His grammar and spelling was correct, and there was not one error you came across, and he wondered whether or not you knew that it was a guise to just spend time with you outside of class. He knew very well there were no mistakes and it was bound for you to find out as well. Well, Kiri, I'm kinda disappointed. I don't see anything I need to correct or go over and I was hoping to spend more time with you, you pout. He sputters out his drink while his heart is hammering against his sternum and his face flushes a peachy hue. He can't believe it. He stutters over his words and you sit there waiting, batting your eyelashes with just a sliver of a smile on your lips. Do you want to go to the movies this weekend? I'm off, you ask sweetly, with honey practically dripping off of your words. I'd love to, he grins, sharp teeth making their appearance, and he leans into your pretty face, pecking your cheek before realizing what he's done. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dash. Soft and warm lips crash on his own, and he gravitates towards you immediately, savoring the feeling before it's gone. You taste like hot chocolate. You giggle, swiping your tongue across your teeth. He shuts off his laptop and looks at you with half-lidded eyes, his brain filling with endorphins and a bunch of wild feelings and thoughts all at once. You want another taste? In case nobody else noticed, Midoriya was very insecure. With his quirk, his abilities, his talents. He wasn't a very boisterous person, nor one to show off, and when it came to his friends, he had a select few he actually felt somewhat confident around. Achiko being one, Kirishima and Shudo being two, and you. The only difference is, you were the only one who held his hand and kissed him on the forehead when he did a good job. To say he loved the praise and adoration from you was an understatement. He got an A on an exam? A kiss on the lips. He fought off an evil villain by himself? A giant, chest pressing against his own hug. Though his cheeks blushed like hell, it gladly accepted it, and he never once felt uncomfortable. You were his safe haven, and he would always run towards you when he needed to. Not once did you talk down on him, or make taunting jokes like some of the others. You were his anchor, in a way. Because of your constant support, he felt like he could move mountains, change lives, be the next All Might. Nothing could stunt his confidence. So then why did he see his world crash and burn when he spotted you kissing Bakugo on the cheek? He thought he was the special one to deserve such a privilege. It was him who earned all of your affection, he was the one you liked most. Number one, he felt deflated. His ego was shot and drained within seconds. Number two, he never had the urge to fight his childhood friend more than now. Bakugo didn't even appreciate it. He wiped it off with his sleeve as you giggled behind your hand. When you made eye contact with him, and smiled so radiantly as you ran over to him, he felt betrayed. Was he your second choice? Was this some kind of prank? Midoriya-kun. He didn't know what to say. One minute he's on top of the world and the next he's back on ground zero. He might as well be below sea level. The bottom of the ocean, if you will. What Ash? When you kissed him on the mouth, stopping him mid-sentence, all his anger diminished and his heart swelled up like a balloon. Oh, the effect you had on him. No. This isn't right. Reluctantly, he pushed you back gently. Eyebrows furrowed together and you tilted your head in confusion. What's wrong? Why were you kissing? His green eyes settled on Bakugo's shadowed figure against the tree. Him. Just a little persuasion tactic I like to use. He threatened to tell Aizawa-sensei I was cheating off of Tsuyu's test today, which I wasn't. I mean, she sits 3 chairs behind me. You chuckled and rolled your eyes with disbelief. But are you jealous? No hesitation. Yes. You brought your arms around his neck and automatically his hands fell to the small of your back, bringing you closer. Don't worry, you know I only like you. He blushed. Do you do that to other guys? A couple others. It's completely harmless, Midoriya-kun. Except with you, that's different. I thought you would be able to tell. For the first time since you both met, you were timid. You, why/n timid because of him. He fought the thumping in his chest, and the disappointment subsided. He shouldn't be upset, you weren't together. There was no label, but it was about DMN time that there was. If you were my girlfriend, would you still do it? You shook your head, of course not. He gulped. If it didn't happen now, he probably won't have the courage later. Then, will you be my girlfriend? I'd be really stupid if I didn't say yes, right? And oh, well, yes done and no, I don't know. A laugh escaped your lips, and he watched with a dry mouth as you leaned up to French him. He must say, he's had a lot of practice in the kissing department thanks to you. Good thing I'm not. This was probably the 3rd time Kirishima has caught you crying this week, not counting the times you cried while he'd been gone for hero work. He didn't witness it, but it was clear that it happened. It was heartbreaking, and it made him want to cry with you, but he shut all his emotions off besides that compassionate and understanding part of his brain for your sake. You needed a rock along with someone to tell you that things would get better, and he fit that role perfectly. Sure, it got a little tiring to hear you repeat the same things. How you can't stop thinking about him, how you miss him, how you were hurt. He would never tell you that, though. After all, he's only been in love with you for years, just to see you get hurt again and again, guy after guy. He'd gotten used to it at this point. He wanted so badly to tell you that he would be different, that he would never hurt you, and that you mean everything to him. He gently knocks on the bedroom door before poking his head in, not waiting for an answer. Guess who's back from being a super badass hero? He doesn't bother to ask how you're feeling. Clearly you weren't feeling the best with your body curled up in a ball, while shuddering. He notices that you're wearing his t-shirt, probably stained with tears, but he doesn't care. At least you're making yourself at home and raiding his closet. Hey, thanks for interrupting my afternoon crying session. Care to join me? Ah, there's one of those sarcastic and sassy remarks he's missed so much, only the crack in your voice makes his heart pang with sadness. You see him eyeing your apparel when you lift your head from the pillow and wipe your face carelessly. Sorry for stealing it, I just missed you while you were gone. Hey, don't worry about it. You wear that shirt better than I do. And there he goes, feeling guilty for leaving you in this fragile state for work. To be fair, he was the one to suggest that you stay at his apartment while you look for another place to live. He wanted to flat out ask you to move in with him, being that you're best friends and all, but he was afraid that would be too forward. Have you eaten? You shake your head, the half-butted bun on your head flopping to one side. He's still amazed how even though you look like a train wreck, you still look adorable. From his old band t-shirt, to your pineapple socks. Get dressed then. I'm taking you out for some good food and a good time. Eiji-kun, I'm really not hungry, you sigh. How about I rant about how much my life sucks, and you hold me? That sounds fun. That's good that you still have your cute sense of humor. But let's eat now, cuddle later. With that said, he walks into the living room to wait for you to get ready. It takes you a solid 30 minutes to drag yourself out of bed. Those comfortable sheets and that soft mattress are calling your name, but you tell yourself to do it for Kirishima. The poor guy had been dealing with your depressing self ever since your ex-boyfriend had cheated on you 2 months ago. Your best friend was the first person you called, and you've been attached at the hip ever since. At least the crying episodes were occurring less and less often. Today was just a rough day. The sick BSTRD didn't deserve you. Kirishima made that clear from day one. He was like a dog in a way, somehow always knowing to separate the good guys from the bad eggs. You put on the first pair of jeans you see, begrudgingly throw on a bra, and a clean t-shirt because, let's face it, you've been wearing that band tee for at least 3 days now. Kirishima takes you to a cute little cafe that serves really good deli sandwiches and iced coffees, your favorite. It's decorated with cute little heart wallpaper, dimmed red lighting, and there's a white cat that sometimes creeps up to meow for some turkey. I'm a little scared to ask this, but how are you feeling? Better, you nod. Short, clipped responses are sort of your thing for when you're in a self-deprecating mood. He wasn't having it. Really, Y/N? Come on, I've been gone for 3 days and that's all you have to say? My life hasn't been that eventful, you know. Not all of us are full-time heroes. Well, that's true. If everyone was, I'd probably be out of a job, he says thoughtfully. But I'd love it if we were partners. It'd be pretty awesome to help you kick an evil dude's butt. That makes you laugh, and he congratulates himself with an imaginary pat on the back and flashes his pointy teeth at you in a lopsided smile. I don't think. That's a good idea. I don't want to be a distraction for you, or have you babysit me for that matter. Hey, you're a strong woman on your own. I don't need to babysit you. Although, I can't say you won't be a distraction. He clenches his fist with mock tears in his eyes. I've always loved an appealing woman in battle. You cross your arms and raise an eyebrow. You're starting to sound like Mineta. You know what I mean. Besides, I'm not like that perverted freak. I only have heart eyes for you. That sharp-toothed smile could probably cause peace on earth. How cheesy. He doesn't mistake your blush for embarrassment. He knows very well that you've been crushing on him for just as long as he has. You're just better at suppressing it more than him. If you weren't feeling so down, you would have made an equally flirtatious comment right back at him. If only the circumstances were different, then and only then would he confess. You obviously need more time to heal, but he didn't want to wait too long. Some other guy could swoop in like the other 2 times and keep you hostage for another year or so. Nah, screw that sheet. It's now or never, man. So, you smile, taking a sip of your tea. He clears his throat. I've been meaning to tell you something. Since we first met back in UA. Sure, go ahead. I mean, I think you're amazing. You're appealing and smart, sweet and funny. You're my best friend. Thanks, Eiji-kun, you beam. Well, at least you're feeling better and now he's a mess. But the thing is, I don't want to be your best friend anymore. He can see the light disappear from your eyes completely, and the anticipating grin you had is now a frown, and you sniffle and look down at your lap. I figured. I knew I was annoying you with my stupid boyfriend drama. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I wouldn't have moved in with you. Wait, what? I'll just go live back with my parents. No. No. That's not what I meant. I love that you're staying with me. He had no problem casually throwing compliments at you left and right, but confessing your love for someone is a completely different ballpark, and one could say that he wasn't particularly skilled in that department. Oh. So you're not tired of me? Hell no, he waves his hands rapidly, until finally calming his breathing and heaving a sigh. Y/N, I'm pretty sure I'm in love with you. You look up from twiddling your thumbs, mouth agape and dry. He just dropped a huge bomb, and if it crumbles your friendship, though he doubts it will, then so be it. I know you're not ready for a relationship right now, and you're still upset, but I'm sick of seeing you end up hurt by every guy you've dated. They don't deserve you, and I know I don't either, but you know what kind of guy I am. You rub your arm shyly and blink up at him. I don't want things between us to get ruined. I like what we have and I'm happy. Bullshit. He furrows his brows, and for the first time in a while he's genuinely frustrated with you. You can't expect me to believe that. Are you really lying to yourself right now? No, I'm being realistic, you say defensively. What happens if we break up? Then I'll lose my best friend and a lover at once. That's a double whammy of pain and suffering. Look at it from an optimistic view. You know me better than anyone. Why do you think I'd ever hurt you like those guys did? You rest your head on your hand, a defeated look painting your features. Ugh, why are you right about everything? It's a struggle to fight the urge to gloat, but he manages. 5 minutes pass while you continue to pick at your sandwich, coming to a conclusion, and Kirishima finishes his third with a satisfied grin as you watch the people pass by through the window. I'm gonna tell you this one time, and one time only, Eiji-kun. You point your finger at him dramatically, narrow your eyes as an attempt to be menacing. Kirishima stifled a laugh. Seeing you try to be scary and threatening is a cute look on you. Don't screw this up. I will never forgive you. Does that mean you're giving me a chance? He grabs your hands from across the table and clutches them tightly, praying to the heavens that this isn't an illusion. You sigh, a hopeful smirk appearing. Yeah, let's give us a try. This is the best day of his DMN life. Well, besides the day he got promoted to a professional hero. After he pays, you both walk onto the half-empty street and begin the journey to his apartment, smiling all the way and holding your hand. I dreamed of this day, you know. Only in my dream, I saved you from this evil villain and totally kicked his butt to smithereens, and you kissed me as a thanks. It was a pretty good dream. You giggle, and with your free hand you bring his bicep to your cheek as you clutch onto him. He never got over the fact that while you stayed the same height, he shot up like a rocket. You've told him before that his stature was perfect for spooning and his girlfriend must have been lucky. Funnily enough, he only agreed because claiming he had a girlfriend sounded a lot better than, I'm single because I'm waiting for you to realize that I'm the love of your life. Looking back on it, did he really spend 7 years of his life waiting for you? I'll tell you what. When we get back home, I'll kiss you for saving me from my evil ex-boyfriend. You press your lips to his arm and he can feel your cheek heat up against his skin. Yes, he did, and it was a long 7 years, but you were worth it. He still sees you around campus since the breakup. While he has his arm around another girl, he's busy looking at you and watching as you chat with another guy, completely oblivious to his gaze, and it makes his blood boil. His current fling's voice pulls him out of his thoughts, and he abruptly turns his head towards her when he catches his name. What do you think, Denki-kun? Yeah, that'd be good. She raises an eyebrow. You weren't even listening. I asked if I should dye my hair back to black. She twirls a pink strand of hair around her finger, and follows his eyes to your direction on the park bench, chatting with Monoma. I can make you forget about her, you know, she winks. Sorry, he stands up and pops up the collar of his jacket. I can't do this anymore. What? It's been a solid 4 months since the breakup. 4 long months that he spent with other girls to ease the heartbreak, only to get right back to square one when he sees that you're moving on. You look so happy when he sees you, which is quite rare when he does, and it kills him to know that you're not in his life anymore. Every day you would text, even it was just to share some random memes, and you would show up at his dorm and watch Netflix on his tiny twin-size bed. You were his best friend before his girlfriend, and now whatever relationship you two shared was gone like it never existed. This was the first time he's seen you with someone else, and he feels his heart pound against his chest. The way this guy touches you and looks at you is the same way he did. So when he walks up to the bench that you're both sitting at, he freezes. It felt like his feet moved on their own. He wasn't ready no matter how much he wanted to say, no matter how much he thought he moved on. The guy looks up at him with an irritated frown. Can I help you? We're busy. That was a jab to his stomach, and suddenly a wave of nausea washes over him, but he avoids Monoma's scowl. Hi, Y/Enchan. He sees a blush scatter your cheeks, but you have no trouble meeting his eyes with a glare. Can I talk to you? Oh, so you left your little girlfriend for me? I'm flattered. You roll your eyes. Kaminari should have expected this, but at least he tried. She's not my girlfriend, he sighs, putting his hand to his forehead. Can we please just talk? What could you possibly have to say to me? He's at a loss for words, and he shoves his hands into his pockets and shrugs. I'll see you around then. Actually, he had a lot to say to you, one being that he missed you. All of the girls that he's casually dated and had flings with, just to get his mind off of you, could never compare. No matter how hard he's tried to forget, it's difficult. You cross your arms, and as he walks away out of earshot, you huff and throw on your backpack. Sorry, Monoma. I gotta go study. But we were just dash. I'll see you in class tomorrow. Your words jumbled together, not bothering to cast your classmate a glance as you jog to catch up with Kaminari, yanking his hand along with you, heading towards the direction of your dorm. All right, you got 5 minutes. I really have to study. Hopping onto your twin-sized bed, hands behind you for support, you send him an expectant look. He's nervous. He hasn't been alone with you since that day. The room is extremely limited as well, and he blushed like a madman when you held his hand all the way till the door. He brushed it off as a habit and didn't want to have hope that maybe you still have some lingering feelings. Though they do say it takes a month to break a habit. Kaminari-kun? The way you say his name, slightly annoyed and breathy, makes him squirm inside. In spite of the awkward circumstances, he lunges forward and kisses you on the lips. To his surprise, you don't push him away, but kiss back fervently, moving your mouth against his. Your small hands grab hold of the sides of his face and you pull him towards you, until his body is on hovering top of yours. His hands move under your shirt, feeling the warmth of your skin. He's missed your touch. A throat clears from behind, along with the shutting of a door. Thank God. Your roommate yawns, throwing her book bag on the floor. I got tired of hearing your but talk about him all the time. Hey, shut up. You glare, and once again your cheeks flush and Kaminari is stuck smiling like a complete goofball. You've been talking about me? You roll your eyes. Not all of them are good things. Oh please, she laughs. Anyway, sorry to cut your little session short, but we got a game of Overwatch waiting for us. I'll leave you guys to it, then. With one last look at you, pressing his lips once more to your forehead and lips, he grabs his backpack off the desk. Funny how yesterday, he was with another girl who he imagined to be another version of you. As shitty as it sounds, nobody made him feel the way you did, and he spent the last few months coming up with as many distractions and hobbies as possible just to find someone or something who could, just to give him that sense that you're not completely gone. Just random girls who could fill the void. Can I call you later, Y/Enchan? He asks hesitantly. You nod, cheeks red, and you're smoothing down your hair before putting on the headset. Of course, not too late though. He smiles once more, and he closes the door behind him before hearing your voice again. Ah, sheet. I forgot I have to study. Followed by, too bad. You promised me one last game. Chuckling, he starts the journey back to his own dorm, a lot happier and relieved to know that there's still that chance of having you again. He's been desperate before. Desperate to become a hero, to become someone people look up to. Desperate to forget about his father, to reconcile with his mother. Those, however, were different types of desperation. Those types made him a better person and helped him figure out who he is. They made him determined to improve as an individual. This situation with you was in a different realm of desperation. He wasn't familiar with it at all, and it irked him. He wanted to know why he felt this way, for one, and he was curious about you the more time he spent with you. He begins sitting next to you in class, and starts asking you for a pencil or a pen, a sheet of paper, your phone number. You give him a small smile when he asks, and his heart beats a little faster until you nod and pass him a note with the digits scrawled on in pink ink, and although his face remains aloof, he can't stop the blush forming on his cheeks and the glimmer in his heterochromatic eyes with each passing second. A few months passed, and a new type of desperation formed. He wanted to kiss you all the time, and hold your hand. He wanted to feel your skin on his constantly. To feel your body wrap around his as you lay together, with you sleeping soundly against his chest as he rubs circles on your back. He feels at home. Serene. A year has passed. You both become professional heroes, something he's yearned for since he was little. Though he suppresses his father's side, you've helped him realize that it will always be a part of him, but it doesn't change who he is. It doesn't represent him. He's learned a lot about you in the time you have spent together, and he fights the urge to recoil into himself and push you away. He doesn't deserve a person like you. He's been in an argument with himself the whole time. When you smile at him, he feels guilty. Though he has nothing to hide, he's been in denial that he has anything to offer you in the way that you provide to him. Your overwhelming support, encouragement, and affection have shaped him into a young man that can face whatever the world throws at him, and he will always be grateful, but he doesn't deserve it. Todorokigan, you speak up, pressing your lips to his cheek. Your legs are tangled with his as you lay in bed together, the crickets of summertime singing in the grass outside. The fan blowing cool air into the room. You've been quiet. What's wrong? He's been known to be nonchalant about his feelings. He doesn't feel the need to talk about them. Around you, though, he's become an open book even without him ever opening his mouth. You can tell in an instant what he's feeling. I'm worried. A short, clipped answer that he hopes he doesn't have to explain, but he knows you better than that. What about? He peers down at you, your eyes blinking up at him patiently. He swipes a strand of hair out of your face and sighs. I think I love you. It's the first time he said it, and the first time you both have ever spoken about topics revolving around love. At the beginning, he thought you were scared of it. It's a word that's taboo, in a sense, and it can lose meaning quickly if it's thrown around too much. Love can be lost or never felt by one party or both, and it scares him. I love you too. He feels your lips against his for a moment, and he's reaching for them again, holding your cheek with his palm. Do you mean it? He asks, his eyes roaming your face for any signs of deception, but there's nothing there. Nothing to be afraid of. Nothing that tells him he doesn't deserve it. Of course. He believes you, and hopes it isn't a mistake. Ice cream is probably one of the very few things that gets Bakugo in a good mood. Not happy, but not angry either. Content, especially if you're with him. His favorite is chocolate, and he had duly noted that yours is strawberry. Walking down a long paved road from the small shop you bought them from, multiple kids around your age were wandering around. Some couples and some groups of friends. Summer nights can be considered one of your favorite sceneries. Fireflies, cicadas, and the shadows of the sun poking up behind the hilltops. The warm air when nighttime begins to settle. You peek over at Bakugo, and it's a rare sight to see him have a tiny glimmer of joy in his eyes as he licks the cone. One random boy, a little older, began smiling in your direction and took your polite nod as an invitation to walk over. Narrowing his eyes, Bakugo instinctively put his hand on the small of your back and stepped in front of you. The boy stopped short, holding his hands up defensively. Hey man, I was just trying to talk to Dash. She's not interested. Is she mute? I think she can speak for herself. He winks at you. Wanna go out sometime? Tapping Bakugo on the shoulder, you frown at him. He's right, you know. Big brothers can be a pain, I get it, the boy laughs. Oh, you furrow your brows and shake your head. He's not my brother. Try boyfriend, Bakugo grumbles, throwing an arm around you. Now get lost, freak. The boy scurries off, with Bakugo glaring after him. Your eyes widen in surprise as he removes his arm from your shoulder and grabs your hand, pulling you along as you attempt to process what happened. Your hand was soft, and compared to his own, much smaller. You walked close to his side, and he occasionally threw a sideways glance your way to see you smiling happily, even though you weren't doing anything mildly entertaining. What are you so DMN happy about? He scowls. Not that he didn't like seeing you happy, it's just that he knew you were going to say something about it. He could see it in that smug little smirk. Wow, you roll your eyes, can't a girl just be eating her ice cream in peace? He manages a short grunt and a few minutes pass, and he thought he could continue his day as his usual disgruntled self. Of course, you wouldn't have that. So you're my boyfriend now? You giggle into his shoulder, and although he thought that was pretty cute, he was still a bit ticked off. Yes, he should have chosen his words properly, but it was either that, or letting that weird kid bother you even more. Actually, maybe he just didn't want you to accept that guy's offer. But even though you two spend all your time together, you text each other on a daily basis, and kiss every now and then, doesn't mean you're actually a couple, right? He stays silent, lost in the complicated formula of your relationship, and all you do is press your lips to his cheek, just long enough to watch the blush arise. He doesn't push you away, even though he clenches his jaw. I'm not complaining, though. Thank you, Katsuki. Shut up. A few moments pass. Give me another kiss. Rainy days were always a favorite of yours. Even if thunder was crackling and lightning filled the sky, you looked up at it with interest, and a calming warmth helps you relax. It was just your luck that your mom decided to move to San Agustin, a sunny city in California with scorching summers and beaches with tons of people occupying it every day, rain or shine. It was also pretty lucky that you got your own personal babysitter who never so much as gave you the time of day. You never even knew how you managed to get stuck with him. Your mother just explained that he was the son of an old family friend. If he was anything like the blonde, you didn't want to meet him. With a custard-filled pastry and a scalding coffee, extra cream and little sugar to balance it out, you sit at the coffee shop by the windows that surrounded the whole café. You watched passerbys come and go as you stirred your drink, before pulling out a paperback of your favorite novel. You were always intrigued by the unknown, whether it be the universe, time travel, and fictional beings. Tired of romantic stories and fairy tale endings, you sought out more dark and compelling themes. You flipped through to find your marker, a little fold in the top right corner, and continued where you left off. Stephen King, huh? A perky voice made you jump in your seat. Jesus, this guy couldn't see you were busy? You meet his eyes, a gorgeous emerald that sparkled as he blinked down at you, a soft smile on his rose-colored lips. Dressed in black jeans and a gray tee, he looked pretty average, but still appealing regardless. Pale skin decorated with freckles across his cheeks, he looks oddly innocent. He ruffled his shaggy seaweed-colored hair and took it upon himself to take a seat opposite you. I'd say that one's a bit more accurate. He leans back in his chair, using his chin to motion towards your novel, Salem's Lot. I'm surprised to see a woman reading decent literature for once. What is that supposed to mean? You frown, crossing your arms defensively. You were positive he was referring to Twilight, which you enjoyed ironically since it first debuted, reading it every once in a while for a good laugh. For someone who dresses so casually and looks so young, his vocabulary didn't seem fitting. It's a compliment. He grins eerily at you with a dry chuckle, and it doesn't meet his eyes. It sends an unnerving feeling down your spine, but you can't tear your eyes from his. He finally breaks his gaze to stare out the window, his lips curling into a smirk. There is no longer the sound of pitter-patter of rain on the glass, and you can imagine the smell outside. Nothing like the scent of freshly fallen rain on asphalt. It looks like the sun is coming out. You nod, still enthralled by his gorgeous face and blinking rapidly once he meets your stare again longingly. I'll see you around, doll. He lazily pulls himself out of the seat, digs his hands in his pockets, and walks out with a longing glance back. Judging by the way he walked, it seemed like he had somewhere to be. You exhale as if you were holding your breath throughout that entire conversation. That was the first time anyone bothered to talk to you since you got to the city a few days ago. Maybe you were just invisible. You finish up at the coffee shop, grab your bag and head towards home. You see multiple posters plastered on the brick walls of buildings. One in particular caught your eye. A band you've only heard of in passing was playing at the boardwalk by a beach close to your residence, and there was likely to be a crowd and drinks galore. You take a picture of it with your phone and you continue home. "No effing way am I going with you," was the response you earned once you showed Bakugo the photo, turning his back to you while pouring himself a glass of orange juice. "Come on, Katsuki. I'm sick of being stuck in this house, especially on a Friday night, and I don't want to go alone." "Tough sheet. I'm not going." "Fine," you pout. "I'll just go by myself." A few hours pass until you ready yourself to leave, and send a quick text to your mother who was out doing who knows what, drinking whatever, partying wherever. It's amazing how quickly she's got used to this town and made friends. Oh, God, even my own mother has more friends than me. When you reach the bottom of the staircase, you see Bakugo with his arms crossed, dressed in all black and a maroon zip-up jacket, leaning back on the wall by the front door. "Oh, so you can go out with your little friends but not with me to a DMN concert?" You scowl, walking right up to him and reach for your house keys. "I'm going with you, as per your mother's request," he says bitterly, obviously irritated by having to be your bodyguard for the. He shoves you towards the open door frame, into the night, and warns you, "Don't be a FANG nuisance." It was a busy night, with people dancing and shaking their sweat everywhere, drunk and uncoordinated, and you were enjoying it. Completely sober, you let yourself sway to the beat while Bakugo was off on the sidelines, making it clear to you beforehand that he didn't dance, and you could see him keeping an eye on you as he sipped a glass of clear liquid. Whether it was straight vodka or water, you didn't care. As long as he didn't make you leave before midnight like a buskill. On to the next song, and you were waving your arms merrily, until a pair of hands grabbed your waist lightly, and you turned around to give the guy a piece of your mind, yet there was no one there. You searched the crowd behind you, giving up a few seconds later and faced the stage again. "Hello again, Angel Eyes." You can hear a stuck voice as clear as day over the music against your ear, making the hair stand up on your arms and that same uneasiness run down your legs. Those same emerald eyes that hypnotized you before were now a mixture of pine and juniper, dark and heavy, scanning your face before landing on your lips with greed. "I knew we would meet again. It was fate," he mumbles into your neck. You had no idea what this guy was insinuating, and you assumed he was intoxicated like everyone else, but his mouth on your pulse was making your cheeks burn. Has this guy never heard of personal space? "You smell so," he drawls out, his lower lip catching onto your skin, sublime. The vibration of the bass and the loudspeakers resonated in your ears, as his words became more breathy, and more of him talking to himself than to you. Vaguely, he speaks up loud enough for you to hear him say, savor, devour, and pleasure. You can feel him sking on your skin, but you can't find it in your heart to push him away. You couldn't even if you wanted to. He has enchanted you, that you know for sure, and you like it, be it in an odd, unsettling way. He unlatches his mouth from your neck and gazes down at you with a lazy smile. "Do you trust me?" "Hell no." "Yes. Come with me, love." He takes hold of your hand, excitement and uncertainty travel through your blood, igniting a giddy feeling in your chest. What is it about this man, who makes you feel weightless, like you're on a cloud? Ending up at Sandy Hill by the ocean beside the boardwalk, where the music isn't as blaring and much less people, thoughts of Bakugo make you worry that you'll be bothersome. Well, it was only a matter of time. "You know," he breathes, "I never quite got your name." His eyes never leave your face as you find the strength to speak. "Sheet, how did he do this to you? He hasn't even kissed you and yet you were a mess, like a little shy schoolgirl with a crush, but you knew nothing about this man. His body is pressed against yours as if it were the pull of gravity, like you were magnets, and electricity from his touch made your body light up like fireworks. Y/N. Pleasure to meet you, Y/N. He licks his lips, repeating your name a few more times as if seeing whether or not he likes the way it rolls off his tongue. "I'm Midoriya Izuku." He grabs your face with soft and gentle hands, and pulls you even closer to him. Your fingers find refuge in the empty belt loops of his breathes that hang loosely on his hips, pulling his pelvis towards you. "I've been looking everywhere for you." He takes in a sharp breath when he feels your touch by his lower half, those juniper eyes flickering between your own and your mouth. "What's so special about me?" You wonder aloud, staring up at him like a confused baby deer in bewilderment. We were meant to be. It's set in stone that I am yours and you are mine. No idea what particular stone Midoriya was rapping about, but his words echoed in your mind like a prayer. I am yours and you are mine. I don't even know you. Oh, but you do, appealing Y/N. You know every inch of me. You gasp as he grabs your bottom, rubbing himself onto you and pressing his palms into the flesh. Your phone rings in your back pocket and Midoriya grabs it and tosses it somewhere in the sand. Fakish. His lips mesh onto yours with such passion and longing that it makes your legs unsteady and weak, and your hands immediately seek out his hair, tugging on to his dark tendrils. He this into your mouth, while your tongue caresses his, and he bites your lower lip. The pain makes your eyes shoot open and it stings, but then joy takes over you. He seeks on the wound, and the lower half of your body pulsates with need. What the F is going on here? Buzzkill. Bakugo runs over to the bottom of the hill, and you can practically see the fumes escaping from his ears. Get the hell away from her, Deku. What is a Deku? Midoriya's body and his warmth slithers out of your grasp, and he sauntered across to where your blonde, overbearing bodyguard was standing. I don't think she wants me to. Why should I? He tilts his head curiously. She doesn't even know what's going on in this city, let alone who you are. What's happening? You glance between the two, wearing a frown. Not now, Y/N, Bakugo barks, and again you're put on the sidelines. The way he is so quick to cast you to the back burner makes you agitated, as if you weren't involved in this dilemma at all. You haven't told her? Ah, my poor Y/N doesn't even remember me. It's been so long, hasn't it, my love? With long strides, he cups your chin in his hand and coos at you. Don't FNG touch her, you bloodsucker. I'll kill you with ease, you know that dimmin' well. Bloodsucker? As in a vampire? Those don't exist, they are only a mere fantasy. A figment of folktales and imagination. There is no way. Don't look so surprised, dear, Midoriya grins softly, you knew it all along. Why else would you be so drawn to me? You're frightened by the haunting look he gives you, but you can't move. You stand with your head towards the ground, trying to be logical. Searching for facts. She doesn't know you, Deku. Go back to your sacred coven or whatever the F-, just leave her alone. If only it were that easy, he sighs, his face painted with longing and yearn towards you. Before you can protest, Bakugo is already at his neck with a stake, and you were pushed away, but planted in sand. Dumbfounded, you watch helplessly as they go back and forth, and something in your mind told you to run. Midoriya dodges like it's taking no energy, while Bakugo looks like he's running on batteries and the power is steadily depleting. So you run. You take off sprinting down the shoreline, away from the flashing neon lights of the boardwalk and away from the fight, wondering if your angry blonde friend will make it. You find a group of people by a stand of motorcycles, circling by a parking lot as they laugh and yell joyfully. They are dimly lit by a few light posts, and by your appearance they all smile and nudge each other. Well, look who it is. One of them yells happily. His hair is a bright yellow and he's wearing a leather jacket that matches the rest of the group. Is this a scene in Greece or what? Where have you been hiding, eh? Another chimes in, taking a sip from his styrofoam cup. You maintained your distance. You wish you weren't alone. There was one lone girl in the group, one with short dark hair and headphones covering her ears, her hands shoved in the pockets of her jacket and watching them with annoyance. Can you guys control yourselves? Midoriya won't be happy. At her command, they all snicker to themselves and fall silent. They're with him? Of course they are. Their personalities are mysterious and hard to decipher, but you don't feel like you're in danger. Looking at their bikes, the moon illuminating the metal, you notice the decals on the sides, and some color here and there for a little personalized touch. The one with the yellow hair smirks at you, leaning on what you assume is his bike with star and rose stickers. You want to take a ride? Not really, you retort. This one seems a little too feminine even for you. You wave him off. He scoffs while the rest of them begin cackling. She's spunky. Don't mind Kaminari, the short-haired girl starts, brushing past him and flashing you a smile. I'm Jiro Kyoka. You look at the others expectantly, but none of them meet your stare. You begin to feel a hand grasp yours, and a sudden relief takes over you. Without even looking, you know it's him. Despite meeting just today, you know his touch very well, as if knowing him for centuries. "Where's Bakugo?" You ask cautiously. "Bakugo?" Bakugo was here? Figures he would be the one watching her. Midoriya's gaze is gloaming as his eyes bore into yours, blinking adoringly down at you. "He won't bother us anymore." "What did you do?" The others begin to climb onto their bikes, the engines purring simultaneously. He leads you towards his own, and mounts the leather seat, patting the spot behind him. "Relax, doll, he's only knocked out. No real harm done." You don't move. He tosses his head back over his shoulder, just enough to make eye contact. "You coming? Please make a run for it. Don't go with him." Your legs take the first steps involuntarily until you're seated behind him, wrapping your arms around his torso, underneath the dark blue blazer and white tee. Feeling the soft skin beneath your cold fingertips, sensing his muscles superior to his stomach contracting underneath, makes your lips curve into a small grin. "You can go lower, if you want," he suggests. "In your dreams, buddy." A hearty laugh escapes him, and he uses his foot to lift up the kickstand, and takes off gradually, with the others following. The clock on the wall showed 12:41 a.m., and your sight was getting blind with sleep. You see Midoriya wrapping his palm with a bandage, and your face tightens with worry. Why should you care so much about a man you barely met? "Can you explain to me what's going on?" You plead with a choked voice. "Are you going to kill me?" He faces you, concerned, at your question and pets your hair, trailing his hand down to your cheek. "I would never do such a thing." "Then why did you bring me here?" "To make you remember, my love. You will in due time." You sit up in your chair. "Listen, I don't know who you think I am, but it's not me." He chuckles, and it's a light, airy sound that makes the whole room radiate. Why is he laughing? He doesn't say anything else and returns to the task of wrapping his hand, so you take the opportunity to rummage around the room. At the mahogany dresser, there are papers and documents scattered on the top, and a few picture frames in a dim gold, holding black and white photos. You get a glimpse of a particular one that your inner conscious is yelling at you to pick up. It's a scary thing to see a woman, dressed in a skirt past your knees and a long-sleeved blouse, with a beret covering long appealing H/C hair, looking exactly like you. A man similar to Midoriya is standing behind you, but his figure is slightly faded and transparent. Is this Dash? Your breath hitches in your throat. Midoriya snakes his hands around your middle, pulls your hair to the side, and kisses your neck. "That's us, my dear. You still look as appealing as you did that day. How old are you?" This isn't normal in the slightest. You push his hands off of you and he finds himself in front of you, with a satisfied grin. "How is this possible?" "Physically, I am 23 years old. I was born in as for how this is possible, you've heard Kakin affectionately call me Bloodsucker. Judging by your choice in books, I assume you're no stranger to the term vampire." He swipes his tongue across his pearly white teeth, flashing them at you for a quick moment, obviously enjoying your mystified stupor. "Those don't exist," you mutter, more to yourself than to him, with your eyes on the floor in disbelief. Midoriya studies you carefully, his hand ruffling his hair again, and puts his weight on one side of his body, one hand in his jean pocket. "You were my maker, Y/N, as well as my wife." This couldn't be true. Watching you closely, almost like a predator circling its prey, he continues, tapping his chin thoughtfully. "I think it's well past time for you to join me again, Angel Eyes. Come home with me." "Where is home exactly?" He is at your neck again, moving so fast that it made you dizzy, and he digs his nose into your hair, inhaling. He hums in appreciation and glances up at you once more, his eyes alluring, and all you want to do is kiss him again. His lips are colored bright like berries in contrast to his light skin, and they're delightfully plump and soft. "The underworld, my dear. We're creatures of the night." He takes hold of you in his arms, and like a remote is controlling you, your head lolls to the side, an enticing sight to him, indeed. Kissing and sking, and liking until he finds the right spot, the one that makes you sigh and bite your lip. You feel his teeth on you, and there isn't an uneasy feeling in your stomach anymore. No subconscious nagging that you had to leave to get away from this evil man. Piercing through the delicate skin of your neck, he drains you until blood is dripping down onto your shirt. He hums in bliss, with his eyes closed, savoring each drop until nothing is left. How could your parents do this to you? Sending you off to a foreign country to marry a man. A prince, nonetheless, with a sour attitude and a deathly glare. Though the wedding wasn't official, it was merely a sort of scouting trip for the prince to pick out the best bride, but it still irked you to think about. You never asked for this life. One with fancy dresses that were way too tight, and cocktail parties with snooty unknown people and a king for a father. You were just a business pawn on your father's chess table, and that was the only reason you were going, and you hated it. It was a good exchange. You marry the Prince of Aldora, and get exposure of your country and increase tourism, trade, and overall business. It sounded good on paper, but when it came down to it, you couldn't stand the idea of marrying for business. Marriage was supposed to be this fairy tale, where you find your true love and it's romantic and sweet, but your father snatched that dream right from you, and you've been bitter about the idea ever since you blossomed into a young woman. There wasn't anything romantic about Bakugo. In fact, you weren't even sure he had a kind bone in his body. You sit there at one of the elegant tables, sipping on your glass of champagne, eyeing everyone around you. Talking, gossiping, and you were the odd one out. A few girls tried to start a conversation, but it became obvious very quickly that you didn't want to be bothered. You felt eyes burning into the back of your skull, analyzing your every move, and it infuriated you, and it was only a matter of time before one of his royal associates sought you out in the sea of women awaiting selection, and you dragged your feet as they led the way. Albeit never meeting him, you've seen interviews and coronations and ceremonies, and in all circumstances he wore a permanent scowl, seeming uninterested and set off. How could so many women see this man as anything other than a pain in the butt? As you make your way through the tall corridor, the tall ceiling lined with gold swirls and artwork, you reach a large room with a deep purple rug and gold trimmings, leading to His Highness. The floors were made of black and white marble, the walls holding cases of sculptures and candles. He stares at you with crimson eyes, studying your face with a satisfied smirk. It makes your whole being shudder. Princess Y/NL/N, he taps one hand on the arm of his lush chair, the other holding his cheek as he leans into it, looking unreadable and mysterious, not even going through the trouble of taking your hand and placing a kiss atop, like everyone else seems to do. Prince Bakugo Katsuki, it is a pleasure, you bow with gritted teeth. You disgust yourself, but do this for father. Act like the pawn. I'm going to be very straightforward with you, is that all right? He pushes himself out of his chair, his shoes scaling the marble before stopping a few feet short of you. You intrigue me and I'm interested. Wish I could say the same, you mutter, pressing your lips together once you realize what you've said. He barks a laugh, shoving his hands into the pockets of his slacks, rocking back and forth on his heels. Say again. His cardinal eyes boring into yours, a challenging tone hidden beneath his words. You exhale heavily, meeting his stare with a hardened look of your own, quirking an eyebrow, before turning away with a proud humph. Very brave words coming from someone whose country isn't even on the map. I think some would consider this a favor, you know, he snickers, waving his hand towards his guards in a dismissive manner. Leave. From a business perspective, yes, but know this, I don't need shit from a man like you. A man like me, huh? He strides forward to take your chin between his thumb and index finger, stroking the skin and your lower lip. You slap his hand away while he grins devilishly at you, eyes twinkling dangerously. I like my women with a little fire in 'em. You're disgusting and I will take my leave, you scoff, turning away from him and lifting up the length of your dress. He reaches out to your elbow, your skin burning under his touch, and he yanks you towards him, until your back is against his chest. Your heart is hammering beneath your ribcage, and you try pulling yourself away from his embrace, but he's too strong and you curse under your breath. How about we make another business proposal, sweetheart? You're quiet, so he continues, spinning you around and wrapping his hands around your midsection. Let's see how long you keep this little charade up. What makes you think that I'll agree? He points at your cheeks. That blush says everything I need to know. You didn't even notice that your skin was flushing harshly. I know that my touch excites you, princess. You grimace, jaw tightened and fists balling up. You're appalling, and a useless excuse of a man, with nothing to offer me but an ill-disposed temper and spiky hair. Believe me, this will be no issue, you pronounce viciously. His jaw slacks open before he snaps it shut, and with roll of his eyes he glowers at you. You have no idea where so much spite has grown inside you, even surprising yourself with how much anger you held in your words. Let's discuss the terms and conditions, my dear. 2 months, you live here with me. If I win, we marry. If I lose, then I will grant your father's wishes of giving your country trade and business opportunities and you can return home. In my opinion, it's a win-win. He smiles lazily at you, eyes narrowed and watching you fidget nervously with your fingers. Did you want to take the risk? It would make your father disappointed to come home empty-handed, with no ring and no promise as an heir to the throne. You were scared, frightened that your feelings could somehow escalate towards this man, but you reassured yourself. There would be no way. Deal. The next few weeks that had passed left you feeling weary. Bakugo was flirting shamelessly, desperately trying to get under your skin. You two share common interests, but it isn't enough to form a bond beyond acquaintanceship. You explained why you hated the idea of arranged marriage, that true love should be natural and easy. He asked to know why you had so much rage in the beginning, why you didn't give him a chance before you snapped at him with remarks. It was probably just pent-up disappointment from your parents. You were their last-born daughter, the only one out of 3 that has not yet been married. You wanted to prove that you would be just as strong, twice as powerful on your own, without being in a sham of a marriage. Sounds like a lot of pressure on you, he comments, your arm hooked around his bicep as he escorts you to his chambers. Wanna know what I think, though? Not entirely. People live on the streets. Kids, elders, and even people our age. Do you know how shitty it is to sit there and whine about your problems as a princess while they don't even know when their next meal is? Perk up, buttercup, 'cause you're living lavish and there's just some shit you can't control. Of all the people in this world, you had to hear it from him that you were stuck up. It's a surreal feeling that really makes you wonder where he became so wise. He doesn't show this side of him often, but when he does, it always manages to make you speechless. You flop down on the bed, the sheets curling underneath you as you kick off your heels and rub the soles of your feet. You're right, Katsuki, you sigh defeatedly, watching him undo his tie and vest. Maybe I'm just a selfish, spoiled brat. Nah, I don't think so. You just needed to see the bigger picture, you know? His knee pushes against yours, giving him room to stand between your legs. He cups your chin and lifts it up to stare down into your eyes. You're welcome. Now where's my effing kiss? You huff, I don't think so. Don't be like that, princess. He growls in your ear, gently biting on the lobe. It's just one kiss. One deep, passionate, tongue-sking and lip-biting kiss, filled with hunger and longing. A low groan is audible when the tips of your fingers trail down his mandible, down his throat, onto his chest. This doesn't mean anything. Everyone has needs, everyone has an itch that begs to be scratched. This is no different. That's what you tell yourself. This won't happen again. He breathes over your mouth, vermilion eyes locked on yours, and he smiles with a certain victorious and smug eeriness. This means nothing to me, you whisper, eyebrows furrowed and lips tugged into a frown. It's not healthy to lie to yourself, Y/N. Come on, he purrs, rubbing his hand along the curves of your torso. Admit how much you want me. You if and you wish, you bite. His breath fans over your face as he laughs darkly, pulling himself off of you after pressing his pelvis into yours. You whimper at the loss of his body weight, and his eyes snap back to your face hastily, like he couldn't believe the sound. You're so effing stubborn. Bakugo saunters into the adjoining bathroom to finish getting undressed, without so much as a second glance. Did you mess up the progress you two have made? You could finally hold a civil conversation and had noticed that he seemed genuinely hurt, but you shrugged it off to make yourself feel less worried for him. Why did he care so much, anyway? He had hundreds of women at his leisure, practically throwing themselves at him at the little scouting banquet, but he stuck his claws in you. That night, while tossing and turning in bed, unable to sleep, you face him and watch his features contort. The scowl that he wore constantly was finally relaxed, and he looked peaceful. You inhale shakily, you missed home. This would never be a place for you, at least one that you wanted. Is the idea of marrying me that bad, or am I missing something? His eyelashes fluttered as he blinked down at you, curling his fingers around yours. Bakugo, you in frustration, go to sleep. Answer me. You don't know how to. 1 second you're laughing with him and the next, biting his head off. It isn't fair to him. This was his idea and you would think that he knew about the off chance that you wouldn't budge, yet it was still a shock to him. There was 1 week left to prove himself. 1 week to make you stay, and you were getting impatient with yourself. Why does your pride have to get in the way every DM in time? What do you want me to say? You inquire shyly, suddenly feeling small and cornered. He props his head up in the palm of his hand and scowls at you. Lie and tell it to my face that you don't feel what I feel. Eyes searching yours, he grabs hold of your jaw and forces you to look at him. Forget about the stupid but deal we made and tell me how you feel. Your mouth opens, wanting to say something but nothing comes to mind. You run a blank. As time ticks by he gets more agitated but maintains a poker face, waiting. Begging. You trail off. Just spit it out. For once in your life, put your ego on the back burner and stop repressing your emotions, please. If I go first, will it make it easier? He asks, his voice husky and low, stuck and tempting. Warm and soft lips capture yours in a quick peck, and you melt against it. You nod. I love you. That haunting L word that you were so frightened of was but a misunderstanding. All those years of shooing off suitors that your parents chose for you, declaring that true love would find itself on its own. Perhaps, in hindsight, you were preparing for this moment. Have you known all along that this would happen? That this rough around the edges, reckless and quick-tempered man was in fact your fairy tale savior? Who really knows besides fate? Your hands voyage towards his scalp, raking your fingernails across and tugging on the light strands. You kiss him once, twice, until he seeks you in, enveloping you in his arms as his teeth grab at your bottom lip, humming as he plants a final kiss firmly on your mouth. I think you know how I feel about you, Bakugo. You're not gonna make this easy, are you? The next morning, you woke up before him. Face buried into his pillow, back facing you, and you smiled fondly. You stride towards the balcony. It's a windy day, sunny and bright, but that sinking feeling in your stomach was churning, making it hard to ignore. You couldn't do it. This wasn't a place for you anymore. It was merely time wasted, fooling around, and though you hated to admit it, you did love Katsuki. You loved him dearly. Why was it so hard for you to stay and be happy? You pack what little belongings you brought along, and closed the heavy door with light hands, careful not to wake him. It was a cowardly move, and you despise yourself for it. Pretty soon, Katsuki would despise you too. What have you been doing for the past month and a half? Just tugging the poor boy along? Your father yelled across the dining room table. You sink into your chair, the self-loathing feelings rising up once again. We made a deal, Y/N, that if you didn't marry this boy then we have no choice. We will pick a suitor for you. Dad, please. I just need more time to figure out what I want. He heaves a disappointed sigh, standing up from his seat and slamming his fist on the table. Why can't you just be like your sisters? Your mother observes silently, not bothering to look at you before following after his footsteps. You sit there, head in your hands, blinking back tears. 4 months have passed. 5 months since you've last seen Katsuki. You journal about him every night, about how big of a mistake you've made and that you wish to go back in time so desperately to tell him how you feel. Hindsight is 20/20, they say. You are now engaged to be married, after courting this man your parents selected for 3 months. 20 years older than you, married twice before, with 3 sons, hoping for another with you. It made you sick to your stomach whenever you touched him. The kisses felt empty and void of any emotion, and every evening as you shut yourself in your chambers, you fought the urge to cry. This is not the life you wanted. The next morning, you awake before noon, and when you poked your head out of your chambers, there was bustling of all the workers and maids. You almost run into one of the working women, and she widens her eyes in surprise. "Oh, Princess Y/N, you're awake. What's going on? We have a visitor coming for brunch from one of the neighboring countries, Aldora. King Bakugo, I believe. We're all very busy, so if you'll excuse me," and she scampers off down the hall. Your heart sunk. You saunter to your mother's room, knocking once before opening. "Mother, I'm afraid I don't feel very well." You fake a cough. "I don't think I'll be able to go to the brunch." She scans your face, quirking a brow, before tapping the space next to her on the bed. "It will be incredibly rude to miss out on congratulating the new king of Aldora, don't you think?" She exhales. "It won't be long. I expect to see you there." That was a dismissal, and you sulked out of her chambers and left to prepare, more mentally than physically. Your soon-to-be husband would be joining the table, unfortunately, and Katsuki would see that you supposedly moved on, and it tore your heart to shreds, though you were sanguine that he would see through the guise. "Thank you for accepting our invitation, King Bakugo. It's a pleasure to have you here." Your father raises his glass of sparkling cider, not yet taking to drink quite yet. Katsuki's crimson orbs never leave your face, while you've been avoiding making eye contact since he stepped in the dining room. "I appreciate you all wanting to congratulate me on my new position." The first course was served, and everyone chatted amongst themselves while you prayed to be invisible, to go back under your bed sheets and disappear. Your fiancé rubbed your knee in an effort to catch your attention. "You all right, love?" You visibly cringed, sparking interest in Katsuki's irises. Everyone scrutinized you, some concerned, others waiting to simply hear you speak. You haven't uttered a single word to anyone. "Yes, I just need some air." "Excuse me." Hastily, you pull up the hem of your dress and walk briskly out of the room despite your parents' protests, breaking into a run towards the back door, into the garden. The roses, the sunflowers, tulips and the cherry blossom tree in the corner, with a decorative fountain and koi fish pond in the center, all so beautifully placed and trimmed. It was your safe space to think and contemplate, and large enough to get lost in the maze created by hedges. "So this is where you go after a long day of FNG me over?" A voice barks, but when you spin around, his face doesn't match his temper. He resembles that of a broken shell of a man, hands deep in the pockets of his slacks and anxiously tapping his foot. "Katsuki," you breathe. Tears well up, and you wipe them away before they could fall. "No," he snaps. "You don't get to say my name like that anymore, princess." "Please," you sniffle, "leave me alone. That'd be too easy for you. Why do you always run away from all your FING problems?" "Because it's safe. There isn't any yelling, no feelings getting hurt, and no confrontation." It was a lie. He's close to you, enough to where you can smell his cologne and you long to feel him against you again. Why did you do it? All those suppressed feelings arose once he asked. Your bottom lip trembled, with nowhere to go, nobody to save you from this. It was bound to happen, you knew it. "I was scared." You don't understand. "I don't understand because you didn't even FING talk to me about it. I thought we were on the same page, Y/N, he replies in incredulity, his voice breaking as he said your name. "I thought it would be you and me. Now you have a goddamn fiancé?" "I don't love him," you whisper, skiing in a harsh breath. "Yeah," he sneered, "you don't effing love anyone but yourself. That's not true and you effing know it." He visibly swallows, waiting for you to speak up again and crossing his arms. "I love you, Katsuki." Your voice cracks, your cheeks are flushed and he doesn't say anything for a long while. You're forced to study the ground, examining the pristine cut grass and the stone pathway. He takes in a deep breath through his nose, tongue in cheek, before skiing his teeth and kicking the ground. "What about that old geezer that was feeling you up? You gonna leave him?" You shake your head. "I don't have a choice anymore. I made a mistake. I'm talking to your parents." He prowls towards you, pressing his lips to your forehead. "I'll be dead if I let you leave my sight again." To your fiancé's dismay, when you both showed up with fingers interlaced, he was fuming. Your parents, mother especially, didn't faze at all, just blinking curiously. You become king and you come into this country taking what you want. He places his hands firmly on Katsuki's chest, and you can feel his hand tighten. You shield yourself using his shoulder as you cower away. You're just a child. And you. He shoves his finger just centimeters away from your face. After all the shit I've put up with Dash. Get your finger out of her face or so help you God, I'll rip it off and feed it to the dogs like a effigy sausage. People in the dining hall gasp, covering their mouths and glancing at each other in disbelief. You're right though. I'm only 23 and I've accomplished more in my life than you have in 80 years, he sneered. Get the hell out of my face. Your father stands, dusting off his vest, and smiles. I never thought I'd see the day where someone stands up for my ungrateful daughter. That stings. Of course, you'll never be as appreciated as your sisters. They complied with each of your parents' commands and did so with a bat of their eyelashes, and whatever they wanted they received. Although being non-compliant, independence-seeking and outspoken, you felt yourself shrink in size at your father's domineering glare, and over time you felt your self-worth dissipate. With all due disrespect, sir, your daughter is nothing of the sort. Since day one, she's been strong-willed and stubborn as hell. He narrows his eyes at you. Not everyone is born to be a follower. This girl's a leader. Yeah, she's made god-awful decisions, but she's young, she'll learn. You, on the other hand, with your little mindset of handing her off to people like this guy Dash, he juts his thumb behind him, and expecting her to just follow along like a lost little puppy that won't last long. Your father looks at you expectantly, as if threatening you to retort and stand up to him. Still, you hide your face behind Katsuki's broad shoulder, terrified of angering him more than you had. We're leaving, Katsuki grunts, hauling you in tow without saying anything else. After all, there was nothing left to say. You didn't have to do that, you know. You murmur into his neck, a safe distance away from your home and on the way to the national airport. Actually, I did, because I'm sick of everyone telling us what to do. Like I'm some dumbass kid not knowing a DMN thing about how the world works. Thus, his sight flickers down to you. Do you honestly think I enjoyed sitting there and have my dad pick out a wife for me? He complains. My stupid old man didn't give me a choice, either. So it wasn't you who picked me. Nah, he ruffles your hair, that was pure luck. I guess I can thank him for doing something right before he kicked the bucket. That's a little harsh, you frown. Trust me, he's fine where he's at. You already knew all the corridors and hallways and secret tunnels to who knows what in his large home. With 209 rooms, it was hard not to get lost, but during the odd months you stayed there it was easy to memorize, and since Katsuki had meetings to attend and events to host with his father, he left you alone until night fell, and then you had him all to yourself. It was those moments you cherished the most. You snuggle up under his chin, tickling his lips with your hair, and blow out a puff of air. Sheet, what's wrong now? Nothing, you smile, long eyelashes gazing up at him adoringly. I just missed this. Tamaki knew he wasn't crazy. Anytime he brought up the subject to Mirio or Nijire, they made it seem like he was, though. At first, it was the little buzzing in his ear. It resembled a fly or a mosquito, and in the summertime, it is pretty common and nothing out of the ordinary. All he would do was wave a hand to shoo it away, but it would only just orbit around to the other. Then a voice appeared. Usually, he'd be at a nearby riverbank when it would giggle and start a conversation. Other times when he would be walking through the forest, it'd be more outspoken, rambling on about its day, asking how he'd been doing. He didn't think of it as annoying, just random and odd, but he grew accustomed to it as it happened every month, then every week and every day. More recently, it would resonate in his ears when he would get into a match, which he only attended because it was his primary source of income, and the voice treated it like he was going into war. The sweet chanting of, "You can do it," and other encouraging phrases gave him a bit of a push, and every time it occurred he never lost. He'd built up a large fortune all thanks to it. It began to be a little more unnerving whenever he slept. After a particularly long and exhausting day, all he wanted was to curl up underneath his favorite blanket and get some well-deserved shut-eye. He felt a pair of eyes watching him as he tossed around to get comfortable, but as soon as his own fluttered open, there was no one to be seen. Weirdly enough, the feeling it left him in was like chasing down an old friend. The entity wasn't evil or eerie, but just downright strange to him. A cold sweat would run down his neck and leave him bewildered because he knew deep down he wasn't crazy. He's never seen the face behind the voice, though, and it ran him up the wall trying to find possible reasonings for the phenomenon. Did he want to know? What exactly is he expecting? How many countless nights of no sleep will he have to endure before catching it in the act? After dragging his feet home after another brutal day at the arena, he shuffled into the kitchen, brushing off his armor and setting it onto the stand. Again, there was that same pair of eyes, watching him, spying on him with intrigue and childish curiosity. Like a flash of light, he w's his head around, and there he sees you. It definitely isn't what he expected, and to most, it would be a treat to see someone as appealing and enchanting as you. For him, it was a catastrophe. Delightful, yes, but still a catastrophe, and he wanted to look at an interesting spot on the floor rather than the celestial being before him. You try to hold his gaze but with no prevail, as his eyes just sink to the floor and his cheeks go ablaze with red. Yes, he would have liked to admire you more, but his timid personality wouldn't allow that. "I'm sorry for causing you trouble, Tutoring," you say rather sheepishly, striding up to him with bare feet and gentle steps. "I just couldn't help myself. I've never seen someone like you before." He didn't know what you meant, but it did make his heart pound in his ears and his whole body was on fire. "My name's Y/N. You beam at him, a stunning smile that was sure to keep him up thinking about it later. Your wings, a translucent purple and almost veiny, beat softly before they halt completely. He nodded subtly, offering the tiniest and there were so many questions he wanted to ask, but he settled on one. What do you mean by someone like Emmy? He trembled, and you tilt your head to the side, pressing a finger into your cheek cutely. Well, a human. Where I come from, there aren't that many, you explain, turning gracefully like a ballerina, dancing around the living room with a pleased grin. I'm glad that you aren't mad at me. That would make me so sad. He really should be mad at you, considering you've been borderline stalking him for months. Now that he thinks about it, he should have seen it coming. The chirpy voice, the buzzing sound, the encouragement and the curious eyes on his back. Like a guardian angel, or rather a guardian fairy, that followed him around like a shadow. Still a little disturbing, though, but he doesn't really mind and brushed it off as water under the bridge. He just wished that you could be microscopic again so he could talk to you more comfortably. You hummed and sang a quiet tune, exploring around the house and flipping through newspapers on the counter as if you lived there. Tamaki had to remind himself that technically, you had been. How did you do today at the arena? Did you win? I'm sorry I couldn't come with you, please forgive me. Weiss, I did okay. Don't worry about it. He resorted to rummaging in the cooler for something to eat and heat up over the stove, his stomach growling with immense hunger. I'm so happy that you did well. Tamaki has never been one to accept praise well. From Mirio, from Nijire, from Kirishima, and especially not strangers. Not even his mentor who he even looked up to for guidance and encouragement. His automatic response, like an emergency system set off inside of his mind, would be that they were mocking him. Those were just simply empty words. But those words were filled to the brim with positivity and kindness. They were genuine and sincere and promising that even if he didn't win, you would still be there for him and that it would be okay. It had always been like that since the start. After somewhat knowing you for months, nearing a year, he figured he should make some kind of connection with you since it became clear you weren't going anywhere anytime soon. He didn't want you to, anyway. He could be content with having you around for a while. Where are we headed off to today? You asked, shoving a handful of berries from your palm into your mouth. You chomped away, skipping ahead of him despite him being the one leading you both. Your dress twirled up, and by chance, he peeked at the skin of your thighs, which he immediately rendered as a huge mistake, hastily averting his eyes to watching his feet. We got groceries, is all he can muster, but you understand completely, bobbing your head excitedly. Market Square. I love going there. The fruit always smells so fresh and they have so many different kinds. Tamaki realized quickly that rambling was something you did quite frequently, and he thought it was cute. It kept the balance between you both, him on the verge of mute, and you like a lively chatterbox. You reminded him vaguely of a second Nijire, and although he appreciated her, there was something more endearing about you that he couldn't put his finger on. Once you two arrived, you transformed into your microscopic self and settled behind his ear, the deep indigo hues of his messy hair providing the perfect hiding spot. Tamaki knew what he liked, but he wasn't sure about you, and he'd never really asked before. There were no complaints on your end about what fruit and vegetables he brought home. It was odd to be shopping for two instead of one. Oh. You shouted eagerly when his hand brushes over a stand of strawberries, debating whether or not to grab a bunch. Get some, please, Tamaki-kun. They're in season right now. He hummed a reply, careful as to not make anyone else think he's a lunatic for talking to himself, and places a pound or so in a paper sack, paying the tender once he weighed it. The journey continues until his bag is full and almost overloaded, partly because his supply was running extremely low and partly because you wanted every fruit imaginable, even the exotic ones he'd never bothered to try. The gleeful squeak you made when he paid for every type made his lips curl up very slightly, and he felt the familiar rum drum in his heart again. I gotta say, Tajin, your words are muffled as you chew around the cherry seed and stem before spitting it out onto a napkin. If spitting could be classified as adorable, he was sure it'd be because of you. I've taken quite a liking to you. His palms are leaned back for support and his legs are sprawled out in the grass as you two admire the garden behind an abandoned church. The flowers sway softly with the breeze and the rustling of the leaves made him calm, along with your exuberant company. Did you miss your home? He purposefully ignored your statement to ask what had been on his mind for a while now. Fairies are known to be hidden in the forests, but he didn't know which one you belonged to. They reside in tall oak trees and generally stay in groups. He knew that if you had been missing from his life for a whole year, he would yearn for you dearly. You sighed thoughtfully, mulling over the question for a few moments before answering earnestly. Sometimes. But now not so much as before when I first left. You tucked a strand of hair behind your ear shyly, a side of you Tamaki had rarely seen. You poke your index fingers together and he watches, puzzled, as your doe eyes light up with fervent passion. I'm happy whenever I'm with you, Tamaki-kun, so it doesn't matter where I am. Again, his cheeks heat up and his eyes darted to anywhere else but you. Obviously, he wasn't aware of your budding interest in him, let alone his own crush. Maybe if you weren't so appealing and kind and charming, then he wouldn't have fallen so hard. And me too, he admitted, hiding his face from your penetrating gaze. You smiled and clapped your hands together happily, already moving on to the next topic of conversation. Although you pretty much helped yourself to everything in his house. His bed, his cooler, his sofa, and his shower, there was one thing you haven't touched and that was Tamaki. So touch-starved and awkward, one could imagine the inner turmoil it could cause, which is why you took it day by day. You began slowly, holding pinkies and linking elbows was something you enjoyed and took every chance you were given. While he made dinner, eyes trained in concentration so as to not burn the meat, you would peek over his shoulder and wrap your arms around his midsection. His initial response was to tense up and freeze, but then he found himself becoming more at ease the more it happened. In fact, he welcomed your embrace as often as possible. It made him feel safe. If he wanted to watch the television, you would be there, and you would gently motion for him to put his head in your lap and play with his elf-like ears and scratch his scalp. Many times he'd find himself asleep and wake up groggily from how good it felt to be tended to, and there you would be, eyes gleaming down lovingly at him, paying no mind to whatever show was on and focusing on the task instead. Then came the kisses. Those were the hardest to get used to. What began as innocent pecks on the cheek turned into longing kisses in the middle of his bedroom, you pressing your center against his pelvis while you straddle him on the bed, cupping his face with soft and gentle hands and swiping your tongue on his lips. His skin burned red with embarrassment, but you didn't stop, not until he was a sputtering mess and he pushed you off delicately. You pout, sitting with your legs bent underneath and hands on your knees. Did I do something wrong, Tamaki-kun? Your voice is breathless and he awkwardly adjusts his breaths for more room, praying you don't notice the pronounced tent. Downhearted, he shook his head, no, and sighs, covering his face, clearly embarrassed. Not used to kissing, he explained briefly, his lips forming a tight line, and you smiled softly, his mind already jumping to the conclusion that you felt sorry for him. That he isn't man enough to take you by the waist and take what he wants. Yet you simply pet his hair, kissing his neck and forehead and nose, making those negative thoughts to feather away and turn into tranquil ones. Should we try again some other time? The thought of that situation happening again and again, over and over, made him giddy and his stomach fluttered with butterflies but sent his bottom lip quiver. But he still nodded, taking in a deep breath and laying down on his back. As if on command, you nuzzled into his side, caressing his chest and throwing a leg over his own. You murmured, capturing his inquisitive sights. You traced circles on his abdomen and it tickled ever so slightly, causing the muscles to flex. I love you, Tamaki-kun. I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. He noticed you apologized a lot, for things that weren't so serious or things he didn't even know had occurred. That was just another one of your character traits to him. You had no concept of personal space and did things on your own accord, almost always including him into it. You were joyful and smiling constantly and said what was on your mind. You were smart and generous and gave him everything he wanted without him having to ask. To be understood and to feel wanted no matter the circumstances was something he never received from anyone as much as you. Which is why he desperately wanted to say it back, but his voice hitches in the back of his throat and he mentally cursed himself, forcing the words to come out, yet they don't. He waited a little while until your eyelids fluttered closed and your breathing becomes shallow, indicating that you were sleeping soundly. Your limbs were limp and your features looked so peaceful, and at last, he found the courage to speak up. I love you too, Y/N. Always the doormat. Whenever people asked, you were at their beck and call. Maybe it was your parents' fault, constantly telling you that it was impolite to say no, to talk back, to speak your mind. Or maybe it was your friends. Anytime they wanted to vent, you were there for them, offering advice and listening to their problems yet getting nothing in return but texts left unread and busy signals whenever you tried to reach them. Even in regular face-to-face conversations, you were left out, always listening intently but never opening your mouth to butt in. That was what you considered your downfall. Always available for other people, but nobody was available for you. Hawks was different, however, and it was odd. He waited for you to speak before continuing, and he let you ramble on without interruptions. It didn't matter if what you were saying didn't make sense, he enjoyed paying close attention to every minuscule detail and asked questions and offered input every now and then. He always returned your calls and always answered your texts. Even if he was in a conversation with someone else, someone you didn't know, he still made sure to include you. You didn't know if it was fear that held you back. The thought of being rejected, of being tossed away and being replaced, did strike you as a rather frightening assumption of what would happen if you did speak up. If you did happen to say no that one time. If you did stand your ground and look those people in the eye and tell them off for once. No, you weren't sure what it was that kept you acting like a pushover, but man, did you want to change it. Hawks helped immensely. His attentiveness and over-friendliness that verged on the line of flirtation did make you question his intentions, but his actions did make you a tad bit more confident. Despite sitting on the sidelines, as you like to call it, typing away on your desk computer at a local newspaper office, being friends with Hawks made it easy for you to get in on the action of being a hero. That kind of life wasn't suited for you. That was very clear from the beginning when your parents glared down at a young 5-year-old, beating it into her that her quirk wasn't strong enough. Those civilians didn't need someone like her to get in the way of the real heroes. Hawks had told you countless of times that what they said was meaningless. Their opinions weren't facts laid in concrete. You could always prove to them that you were helpful in more ways than just a hero, and so you took his word for it and applied for a journalism job. Your quirk wasn't anything extraordinary. The ability to perform calculations in your head while still maintaining a relatively common IQ range was not that impressive to the average person, but their Hawks was. Studying you carefully as you stare up into the ceiling, doing a ridiculously long calculus problem. The numbers just flew past you, adding up and dividing and multiplying at once. Like a giant calculator. You give him the answer and he looks it up, eyes widening, obviously amazed. I think if you really wanted to, you could be a hero with this kind of quirk. I can think of 100 ways for you to help people, he went on, but you wave your hands in dismissal. I don't want to be a hero, I'm fine being here just watching you guys. He knows deep down that it's bullshit, but he lets it go for now. He'd rather enjoy this time spent with you before he has to go for another mission. Over the span of 2 years, 3 months, and 5 days, Hawks had taken a liking to you. Though you appeared to be depressively quiet and rather boring to others, he found your insight fascinating and had imagined you as his partner in crime, so to speak. You could tell him how many feet the villain is inside the building, what the parameters are, the exact measurements. You could even come up with new technology for him and adjust his already perfect eyesight, or just join him at his agency and be a little hidden agent. There were countless opportunities so much more useful to him and you that he refused to believe that you were satisfied sitting at a desk and typing away. The only good part about your job was that you could patrol around with him and ask different heroes questions, and while you were there with a notepad and pen, he was behind you as a shadow for encouragement. Also, he could get a nice look at your butt. Hawks had admitted a long time ago that his feelings for you would never fade, not as long as you were still around and being as smart and profound as usual. He wasn't quite sure whether or not you returned said feelings, though, so he figured he'd test his theory that you were curious at the least and wanted to explore further. So he leans over and kisses you. It's nothing life-changing to you, just a small peck. Only enough to ignite a small flame. He grins when you look at him wide-eyed and confused. I just wanted to try something, he explained. It was only in your nature for you to clam up, not bothering to say anything else, and instead just silently pray that he does it again with more effort and passion. He knew that would be the case. You fidget on your spot on the roof, eyes glazing over the skyline, and you chew on your lip. What's wrong? You shake your head. Hawks takes it upon himself to begin his teasing, knowing very well how you operate. If there's something you want, you gotta tell me, turtle dove, he purrs, a smug grin forming on his mouth, and you want nothing more than to wipe it off, preferably with your own mouth. Why do you keep doing that? You whine, crossing your arms defensively with a huff. He was always so good at making you flustered enough to keep you up at night. Okay, so maybe this wasn't the first time this had happened, but it all played out the same. He kissed you, you shied away, rinse and repeat. This time, though, Hawks would make sure that it wouldn't end with both of you going home unlucky. You gotta learn how to take what you want somehow. You hated the fact that he had a life lesson behind all of this pining and hoped that maybe he would be a little more romantic, but that would be far-fetched for the bird brain, albeit a shameless flirt. He knew you were tired of being the doormat, the pushover, the person who got backstabbed by everyone she put her trust into, who got her heart broken one too many times. The worst of it all was that you blamed yourself for all your shortcomings. He couldn't believe it. You put the fault on yourself despite it being way out of your control. He was growing tired of it all too. Seeing you with that crestfallen look as you dragged out of your boss office. He could hear that BSDRD beaching at you from the hallway, and not only was it embarrassing for you, he could also hear your coworkers snickering. Once he shoots daggers at them, they immediately fall silent, but they still treat you the same. Piling on their own workload on top of yours, and you struggle to catch up with the deadlines. Yeah, he was getting really sick of it. Listen a bit. You want another kiss? I'll give it to you. But I'm not making the first move anymore. Hey, I didn't ask for you to kiss me, you scowl. I don't know what game you're playing at, but hey. He drags your body by your feet until you're sliding down on the concrete, but it's short and quick, so the pain on your head and back subsides like it wasn't even there. He straddles you, placing your arms above your head as you twist and turn, trying to get out of his talons, but it's futile. Let's face it, Y/N, he's a delicious hunk of a chicken strip and much stronger than you. I know you want me just as much as I want you. I can see it in your eyes, little dove. If either of us are playing a game here, it'd be you. He was right in a sense, but Hawks knew that you didn't mean to lead him on. You barely even knew what you were doing half of the time. He just wished that you would be a little more assertive. Whether it be in your work, with your parents, your friends, and especially with him. He wanted you to be in charge, and he wanted you to take what you wanted, him included. Your cheeks tint a delightful rosy hue, and he smirks knowingly. Come on, Y/N, don't make me beg for it anymore. Although it comes out as a plea, it's more so a threat. So you do what you've been yearning for the entire 2 years, 3 months, and 5 days and kiss him. You grab him by the face, tug on his wild hair, and he groans in response. Lips fervently move against your own and you match his momentum, his hips bucking into yours and you squeak, hands sprawled out against his broad chest. By the time you two break apart, you're both breathing, breath still intermingling with each other's, and he smiles proudly. Then finally, he sighs, and leans in to kiss you again. There's a phrase that states that during the night is when everything comes to life. People traveling into the city to see the lights set up among the trees, to see landmarks and visit ramen restaurants and food trucks, and to buy cheesy souvenirs for their friends back home like magnets or coffee mugs. That wasn't the case for you, though you wish once in a while your boss would let you relax. It was very seldom that you got a day off, as you were always put to work and had little time to spare for outside activities. Some missions would take you months at a time, so you had to learn how to have fun while on the job, and it wasn't difficult. You were free to do as you pleased as long as the job got completed, and you indulged in that perk often. You don't remember how you came into this line of work. Since 16 years old, you've trained in combat, how to make and take apart time bombs, guns, grenades. All for one purpose, to kill. You thought it was a waste of time to spend so much effort on a side job for bottom feeders, but the money paid well, so you stuck with it. You didn't have much of a choice anyhow, considering you didn't know your name and who you were as a person when you got recruited. The agency that took you in obviously saw some potential in you to even accept you as one of their own. Maybe you would be good at it, and you guessed correctly. Now the top assassin of the agency, you've made a name for yourself among multiple broadcast news centers and newspapers, all questioning whether or not you were a savior or just as evil as those you murdered. Most people get the wrong idea. They assume that because you're an assassin, you kill people for fun. There is no reasoning behind it besides you being a nasty criminal with a taste for blood. Believe it or not, there is an explanation for it all, and it's very simple. The people you kill have all deserved it. Arpists, pedophiles, kidnappers. Do they deserve a second chance at life? The average person would say, probably not so much. This was your fuel to the fire behind the gun. The purpose for doing it? For cornering them and shooting them point blank or twisting the knife until they go limp. So here you are, wandering around the lit-up plaza in the middle of the fall festival, with everyone in their traditional kimonos and enjoying cultural treats and entertainment. You most likely stood out the most, judging by the suspicious glances, but then again, who really cared when they were there to have fun? Soon, your target comes into view. The tall man, in his early 40s with a scar underneath his left eye. Tattoos along the right arm. He's somewhat limping because of an injury to his right leg. Gold rings pushed to the knuckle of every finger of both hands. Bingo. You stalk through crowds of people, keeping up with the group, and you watch as he takes a woman sharply by the arm and into the back alley of a gift shop. This guy clearly has no shame, and it makes you scowl in disgust. You go around the back of the restaurant next to the shop, where there are a fire escape and a metal stairway that leads to the roof, and you climb, not wanting to waste a second in case it's too late. You peer down as he moves in to kiss her, and while she's busy struggling and trying to push him off, you grab your loaded pistol and take aim, pulling back the hammer, and your eyes follow the man's movement, finger just barely brushing the trigger. Who the hell dash? You blink in shock, losing not only your aim but your focus when another person comes into view. Large red wings are attached to his back that moves with him as he struggles, and in minutes he has him pinned to the ground and unconscious after a few good punches. The woman scurries away with a shaky thanks, and you continue to stare, bewildered, and said that he took your reward money right from under you, heaving a frustrated sigh. Of course Hawks was the moron to get in the way. Older than you, younger in experience, he was your overly flirtatious and cocky counterpart. Surprisingly, you two got along well, but when it came to working together, it was awful and had too many mistakes, but somehow you always managed to pull it off. His smug confidence caught you off guard sometimes, but you liked it about him. On the receiving end of your affections, since his first day at the agency, he flocked to you and stayed by your side, offering his company in more ways than one. Although the majority of your conversations consisted of arguments, you both were aware it was simply banter. If it wasn't, what other excuse did you have for letting that smug punk ravish you every chance he got? That was something that wasn't earned quickly, and he had to work for it. Ultimately, you were a pair of parasites that took what you wanted whenever you craved it, so it didn't take as long as it might have been for anyone else. Not that you minded. You jumped down from your spot on the roof after deciding you weren't gonna let him off the hook that easy. He jumps back defensively when he hears you padding towards him, gun already hidden inside of its holster. A confused scowl crosses his face. How did you dash? You birdbrain, I had him. Why were you here anyway? You groan, irritation prickling your tone, and you take out a pocket knife, slicing his jugular and grabbing the unconscious man by the collar, tossing him like crumpled paper into the dumpsters by the corner as he bled out. Hey, what the hell are you doing? He watches as you turn to face him, and he has to bite back a smile when he sees an adorable pout on your lips. Dressed in an all-black, he had to say it was a good look on you. It accentuated your frame in a way that colors couldn't, and it was easy on the eyes. My job? You say it so matter-of-factly as if he's a moron for not understanding who you are or where you came from. He knew since being assigned as your partner for a number of missions, constantly sitting in the shadows waiting for you to be finished. What can he say? He likes to watch you in action. You didn't answer me, Hawks. What are you doing here? Well, he drawled out, rocking back and forth on his heels. I was out on a mission trying to get paid, you know. The usual. Endeavor gave you the same mission as me? Man, I work with dumbass. Hey! He holds his hands up in surrender with a sly grin on his face. I'll tell you what. You can keep the reward money. You roll your eyes and go to shove him out of your path to exit the alley. Shut up, dude. I was gonna take the money anyway. I didn't need your permission. He grabs your arm and pulls you close to his chest, his strength overpowering you, and he smirks while you glare up at him. You didn't notice that I let you do all the dirty work? I basically handed it over to you. You're dead weight, Hawks. Like always. His grip tightens and he walks you both towards the brick wall, pressing his body against yours, and you grunt. Don't be mean, Y/N, he mockingly whines, chocolate eyes holding a mischievous glint. You really hated how alluring he could be. Nearly all missions ended with you spending the night at his house or him at yours, a never-ending seawall but with no strings attached. Funnily enough, you never cared to sleep with anyone else but him, and you knew he didn't either. Nobody could give you the same satisfaction, nobody could fill you up like he did. You know I make up for it in the bedroom. You laugh, breaking out of your stern and hard persona and letting your true self shine, the character that only Hawks deserve to see. He cutely frowns at your response. Listen, Chicken Little, I don't know who told you that, but it wasn't me. Ah, really? He clicked his tongue. Maybe I got it confused with my other turtle doves. Now it was your turn. Eyebrows furrowed, you try to thrash out from his grasp, suddenly annoyed by his touch. He laughs, his body not moving an inch and hips still pressing into yours. Jealous, huh? Cute. Hawk sings, eyes closing with joy. No matter how hard you kick and push, there was no point. I'm not jealous. The words emerge through gritted teeth and your eyes avert from his, giving him the opportunity to succumb to your neck, lips fervently trailing kisses along the skin, before stopping just below your ear. Kisses before pulling away with a lewd wet sound, and in a trance, you run your fingers through tousled hair, whimpering softly for him to continue. He breathes. It's okay, chickadee. You know you're my only one. In one swift motion, he lifts up your legs so they're wrapped around him, a familiar hardness against your center and an insatiable need growing inside. He juts with his thumb towards his back, and you giggle knowingly, already mounting him like a motorbike, and he takes off into the sky. Stepping inside of his loft, he watches with hungry slanted eyes as you hike up your pleated skirt, sliding down your panties and tossing your head over your shoulder, aware of his domineering gaze. You shove him onto the bed, attacking his lips with your own. Fingers thread in ash blonde hair before yanking in a harsh tug, making him grunt and chuckle. My, what a cute little Dimerix you are, he chirps, voice low and raspy. He pulls you forward until you're above his face and his mouth lines up with what he considers to be a lovely meal, his breath heating up the exposed flesh. You do know that's not how this works, though, right? So he gets to work, swiping his tongue between the folds, and you clench the wrinkled bed sheets in front of you, breathy ems escaping your mouth as he essex, licks and alternates. There's a phrase that states that during the night is when everything turns to life, and that proved to be true in your experience. While people resorted to nightclubs, restaurants, and bars, you decided on Hawk's loft, allowing him to ignite that spark that made you feel alive. For weeks. Agonizingly long, treacherous, and dull were the words Bakugo would use to describe the time spent on the open sea. Storms made the boat nearly tip over, the harsh winds blew holes in the sails. Just an overall. So when he spotted land a couple miles away, he clenched his fist and smirked, at last. He yelled at his crew to get it together, to turn the sails north so they could go south towards the coast. As they arrived closer, he scanned the area. Mostly barren, occupied by nothing but a pier and a forest beyond the sand. There was most likely a village hidden among the trees, and they came up to the pier to fish. Surely they wouldn't mind the king staying for a while. In fact, they should be grateful that he's blessed them with his presence. Kirishima rests an arm on his shoulder. I hope they have good food. What we packed for the journey was complete garbage. It's not my fault you scoundrels only wanted chicken and fucking potatoes. Should have figured you would get sick of it eventually. Bakugo glances up at the crow's nests, studying Siro as he attempts to look through the monocular for obstacles ahead. Anything. The raven-haired man shakes his head to deny, issuing an all-clear to continue. Crimson eyes settle on the hill of rocks over the side, stacked on top of one another, and the waves smacked into the side. He could have sworn he'd seen something move, but he brushes it off as a fish jumping out of the water. Once they arrive at the pier, they anchor their ship a good distance away and hop off, landing on the broken wood that held it up and practically bolted towards the village. The night was approaching and dusk began to take over, the sky turning into a deep red and orange hue. Bakugo leads the way, clutching his staff, a sharply carved rock in the shape of a triangle at the tip, with sturdy vines as to keep it intact. His crew follows, joking and laughing, with Kaminari being the loudest as always, already drooling with the illusion of there being pretty girls and delicious red meat. As he predicted, it was an average-sized town with cozy cottages and a large castle that overlooked the whole area. It outlined the horizon and held flags that waved with the wind, ushering a hello. The more he explored, the more he saw what else it contained. An apothecary, markets, blacksmiths, tailors, and plenty of very promising restaurants. He was granted permission to stay at their finest hotel, stationed right next door to the castle, and didn't bother introducing himself to the prince, Todoroki, muttering arrogantly that he should know who I am, and traveled off on his own after dinner. Something pulled him back towards the pier. It called out to him like some kind of sorcery, and he was itching to find out what it was. He sits, watching the ripples through the calm water and his feet dangling off the edge. The sun was beginning to set and the clouds were reaching closer. Then there was singing. A delightful melody that immediately had him captivated by the sweet voice that held the notes, coming closer with each second, until a pair of hands reached up to the side of the pier, causing the king to jump. Who the F are you? You tilt your head, studying the fascinating creature beside you. I don't know, why don't you tell me? His eyebrow twitched in annoyance, lips curled into a snarl before they droop into a confused frown. A bright orange tail slaps itself onto the surface of the water, almost splashing him. You giggle when he flinches, disappearing from his sight. Don't tell me you're one of those sirens, he grumbles, taking a sudden interest in you. The way you move through the water was graceful, as if floating through the air, and he leans forward on his knees, until you're right in front of him. I think so. Who the F are you? The curse word sounds foreign on your tongue, making it obvious that you're repeating his question out of mockery. Why don't you tell me? He shoots back. You grin, accepting his challenge with a light heart, and float on your back, exposing your bare chest and causing the slightest tint on his cheeks before he averts his eyes angrily. You take in his clothing. Claw-like earrings and multiple necklaces symbolize royalty, but with the way he acts, he's most likely not. Kings and princes were always proper and polite. His cape was lined with fur, probably wolf or fox. He wore no shirt, just protective armbands, and plain breathes. Are you like a pirate or something? It's a genuine question and Bakugo bristles defensively. I'm a king, you goddamn sea monkey. You pout, swimming up to him and yanking his foot so he falls into the water. He surfaces and sputters before sending you a menacing glare. That's what you get, you heathen. As revenge, he dunks your head underneath, before he realizes that you aren't a normal person like he is, and you easily escape his wrath and swim around him. You create a wave with your tail and it sends him up gently onto the pier. With a scowl, he glances back, but you only smile, and he saunters off soaking wet. You call out after him, "Come back soon," which is ultimately ignored as he hunches his shoulders. Bakugo had no idea how long it would take to rebuild the patchwork on the sails. It could take months, or possibly and preferably weeks, but he kept putting it off. Wandering towards the pier every night because no matter what his plans were, he would always run back to you. The crew was growing suspicious, but they didn't dare to disrespect his wishes, so they complied, resorting to shoveling food down their throats and chugging rum like it was water. There had to be an explanation for him to be hovering over you like a puppy looking for its mother. Something reasonable to say that he wasn't growing weak and tender-hearted. He glowers at you, merrily flicking your tail upwards and creating tiny splashes and enjoying his presence. You begin to hum, voice fading in and out of falsetto as you sing a tune. Then it clicked. Did you put a spell on me? You halt and an ache tugs on his heart with the frown you pull, but the edge is still there. Cautious and wary. Why would you think that, Katsuki? I shouldn't be out here every night with some fish that just happens to be pretty. It's rubbish, he huffs, ignoring the smug grin you wear and shove your face away from his. Don't get the wrong FNG idea. Well, consider yourself lucky to have run into such a nice siren such as myself. The others won't be as forgiving. He arches a brow, prompting you to further elaborate. I sing for fun. I get bored out here and you're the only one who bothers to keep me company. The others further down the shoreline, you point to the mountain of boulders on the right. They are the ones that stuck sailors for kill. You visibly deflate, crestfallen and grieving at the topic. He's heard stories before about how there were mermaids of some sorts that with one simple note they could enchant an entire boat of men, causing them to jump overboard and drown from the current. They were considered horror folktales, but he didn't believe them until now. They killed my lover, you whisper, the scales of your tail reflecting the light of the moon. He was coming into the port and they caused him to jump ship. He got trapped underneath the waves. Chest twinging with guilt as if he had something to do with it, or maybe it was the fact that you had fallen for a human before made him jealous. Either way, he felt pity for you. Losing someone that holds a special place in your heart was never easy, a lesson he'd learned pretty early on. He'd seen the way his father cried when he lost his best friend, his wife, Bakugo's mother, from an illness brought into the kingdom by foreigners. Luckily it was retained and secluded from others, but his mother was the first to pay the price of trusting too easily. Have you ever loved someone before? He doesn't have to think about it before answering. All the women his father summoned were after money or notoriety, nothing to offer, but yet they expected too much. No. Why not? You ignore the irritated scowl he throws at you as if it was a stupid question. With a dreamy smile, you continue. I think love is appealing and strange. I've always seen humans kiss each other and hug one another, and I've always wanted that connection. But it hurts too. When I lost him, I lost myself. It took a long time until I found myself again. He dwells on your words longer than he should have. You were nothing but a mythological made-up creature that he just so happened to befriend. There was nothing more, nothing less, so why did he get so jealous the more you talked about this dead guy? It annoyed him how you practically recited poetry in his honor. If it hurts that fucking bad, stop talking about it. You purse your lips before smacking them. Fine. Let's talk about something else. Or nothing at all. When are you leaving? He doesn't miss the hurt in your voice. He can feel your eyes on him, but he doesn't want to look into them and get stuck in a place he can't find himself out of. Every time he does, he gets SCD in, and he ends up making silly promises that he knows he can't keep up for long. It's better this way to avoid his feelings. What was he thinking getting involved with a siren anyway? The sales should be finished up in a couple days. After that, I'm going back to my kingdom. You're scared that he'll leave you. Before he even arrived, you knew that it was inevitable. Everyone always leaves and they never come back to visit. The rocks were so lonely and you could only sing for yourself for so long. Okay. The couple days he mentioned was a complete lie. He ended up staying a few more weeks, which only dragged along the painful process of saying goodbye. Bakugo really wished that he could find the strength to rip off the bandage, but he couldn't. He felt too attached and too close to you to risk losing it all. The ship's sails are finally completed and his men are boarding, and there's no sight of you. His heart sinks, disappointment and the lovesickness already settling in. He stalls while his crew loads up the ship with barrels of food and necessities, calling out for him, but he runs. He runs to the only place he'll find you. On the other side of the rocks, like the dark side of the moon, he finds you sunbathing. Your hair is up in braids and your skin is kissed by the sun, orange tail gleaming with the rays bouncing off of the scales and onto the surface, like glitter. You're appealing to him, mythical creature or not. Half fish or half human, he saw you as what you were. Y/N. He yells, your head snapping towards his direction in shock. Mouth agape, you watch in awe as he hops across the stone tops and reaches you, bending down and pulling your head into his chest. I don't want this to be a goodbye, he murmurs against the sound of the waves. Come with me. You don't have to stay here. Katsuki, you breathe, eyes brimming with relieved tears, but you cup his cheek in your palm, eyes searching for clarity. I'll go if you admit something to me. He doesn't think twice about it, understanding completely, and only pressed his lips to yours, gentle and earnest. I love you. You take a sharp breath in, eyes searching his for sincerity. Slowly you nod, kissing him once more, and he takes you to his ship. Your tail transforms into legs in the absence of water and he wraps his fur-lined cape around you before introducing you to his band of hooligans. They all cheer with happiness that he's finally found his mate, Kirishima slapping him on the back, but he only shoves them away, ordering to get started and drags you away to his chambers before they can pester you anymore. Along the way, you walk clumsily, only using your legs once or twice. It had been a long time since you needed to. 3 weeks. 3 joyous, laughter-filled and bright days that went by too quickly due to your entertaining presence. The ocean was calm and it was always sunny, the ship easy to steer and the journey much faster than the last. A wonderful memory that will be added on to more, while he spends his future with you, his wife. He had eyes like emerald gemstones centered in a field of brown speckles, and a warm and inviting smile that called to you. A silent plea that begged for you to come closer, to fall into his embrace, for him to call you mine. You would see him in the long hallways, always dressed in a pristine black vest with a gold pocket watch attached to his chest, fitted black slacks and matching loafers. A dapper young man around your age, but less more so like the generation today, like he had years of experience behind that gaze. His hair fell down in wispy and messy curls, a deep forest green, and whenever he passed you by, a scent comparable to none other than sandalwood and vanilla. You had spent so much time at this particular hotel that you might as well had worked there. The staff recognized you and gave you discounts on the available rooms and even gave you access to the wine cellar underneath the floorboards, behind this singular room in the very back of the first floor. You only went down there to retrieve your favorite flavor of wine, rose Chardonnay, and brought it back to your room. The staff must have grown tired of fetching a glass after glass every evening hour. You enjoyed being drunk in the nighttime. It helped you sleep and it made you see the world in a peculiar state of mind. Being a writer working on her next novel, you feel that every creator should have a means to make creativity appear. Your muse was the wine and, of course, the man you'd see in the hallways. A change of scenery had an immense effect on your writing as well, which was why you habitually wandered into this same hotel. The Hotel Del Mano. He seemed to linger on your floor longer than others, and in every nook and cranny you walked past, he was there like the Mona Lisa. His eyes constantly followed you everywhere. It wasn't bothersome, and quite recently you find yourself staring back into his penetrating gaze. Those eyes drew you in and they captured your heart after a single day. You asked the waitress who the man was, but she told you that no man as such existed. At least not in this hotel. You ask the bartender, and he dries a liquor glass with a towel, shaking his head. You ask the maids that entered your room to change your sheets and empty the trash, but they all say no, they've never seen a man like you described. In the beginning, you thought that you were insane. That if nobody else saw him, it meant that he wasn't real. He wasn't tangible. He was a meager shadow. You blamed it on you being drunk. When you felt a pair of lips pressed against yours, a warm body hovering over your being, and your eyelashes flutter open and you see that same alluring speckled face, you were relieved. You relax into his embrace, letting his body engulf you and cage you in, giving yourself to him. His kisses are lewd and needy, the malachite eyes behold your own as his mouth travels down your torso. From your neck to your collarbones, he peppers kisses downwards, leaving the cool air to melt into the exposed skin. He lifts up your top and kisses there as well, leaving wet rings around your stomach. It fills your core with anticipation and lust, not an unfamiliar feeling, yet it feels brand new. Unexplored. Unconquered. With one swift movement he has your pajama shorts and panties pulled below your knees, reveling in the sight before him. Folds already glistening as he spreads your thighs apart, admiring and swiping his tongue over his teeth when he sends you a smile. Your fingers clench the sheets by your side when his wet muscle meets the pink flesh, instantly transforming into a squirming and miming mess as he works the sensitive bud, his lips puckering and sking delicately, groaning at your sounds. He pulls back for a moment, a string of saliva traveling after his mouth. You see what you do to me, Y/N? You have me at your beck and call. Black trousers are strained as he leans back, a hand on your ankle for balance and one hand cupping his clothed erkton, and the thick outline causes your mouth to water at the sight. It didn't cross your mind that he knew your name, but you didn't know his until now. As if he'd read your mind, he breaks the silence. Midoriya Izu, he blinks, eyes half-lidded, and he lifts a leg, the knee bending over his shoulder, slow and long fingers caressing the skin. Say it, he commands. Midoriya Izuku, you repeat breathlessly, eyes fluttering closed. He hums and presses his pelvis into yours, rubbing himself upwards against your CLT, creating an exhilarating friction as a response. You gripped the forest locks and yank him closer, miming into his mouth, bucking your hips up to meet his. A strangled groan as if he's holding back erupts from his throat, and he whispered, forehead touching your own. You are so utterly divine. Say the words and I'll be yours, I'll be whatever you want me to be. His quiet promise causes you to purr in response, a lazy grin growing, and you hold him close, his ear just centimeters away. Like predator and prey, you both played a game unbeknownst to you, but he was so aware. With intent, he set his sights on you from the very start. The moment you wandered into the luxurious hotel, you stood out, those inquisitive and doe eyes that captured his attention. Originally, he had set his greed elsewhere, opting for a more reasonable victim, but you just seemed so celestial, so painstakingly difficult to ignore. Like God had crafted you with his own two hands, paying extra attention to the little details. He wanted his own slice of heaven, he wanted what he couldn't have. Nobody but you would satisfy him. So he watched from the wallpaper, his presence hidden to everyone else. He craved the taste of your rose-colored lips. Now he knew that they tasted of cherries and your skin smelled of chocolate from that of cocoa butter. Neither of which he would have known unless he acted on his intentions. Take me, you sighed, and so he did. Midoriya did as he was told, and along with him, he took your energy, your strength, and your desires, until all of them revolved around him and himself only. It was like your own heaven and hell, you couldn't have one without the other. He managed to entice you with one single glance, and because of that, you didn't know if you could continue. If life could return to normal. Since that night he claimed you, he tainted you with his mark. He told the world that you belonged to him, and he bound himself to you, ravishing you every night, while every tenant was asleep. You couldn't rest unless your body became filled with him, couldn't breathe until he kissed life into you. For that, it was a blessing and a curse, but you told yourself it would get better. One day, he would forget about you, find a new host, find someone better. Yet it didn't, and you found yourself not wanting it to. You liked it as it was and what it always will be. When Todoroki finally asked you out on a real date, not just one of those setups Mina had done before, but a real date, to say you were stoked was an understatement. The half-and-half boy was completely oblivious to your advances and hints, simply taking it as you being extremely friendly until Midoriya and Ochako pointed it out to him. Though it did take him a week or so to figure out his exact feelings for you, it all came together in the end, and here the two of you are. Strolling down the bustling streets of Hosu City with this one sukiyaki restaurant in mind, making small talk along the way with your arm linked with his. Todoroki was never one for displays of affection. Even holding pinkies was a little bit more than he'd bargained for, but you were always so overly touchy and gravitated towards his body, constantly feeling a need to feel him underneath your fingers. It was nice to be wanted for once, he supposed, and you provided that warm and fuzzy feeling in his chest that emerged whenever you did it. He didn't mind it at all, in fact he welcomed it. His body felt barren without your presence against his. With your cheek pressed into his left bicep, you can't stop smiling from the warmth that radiates off of his skin like your own personal furnace. It comes especially in handy during snowy days like this one, the flakes falling into your hair and Todoroki blowing them off cutely while you shield yourself from the icy wind. The pair of you have yet to kiss, and you yearn to feel that same heat against your lips, but you settle on nose and forehead kisses. Whenever he's the one to initiate, they're ghostly and lasted a mere second, while yours are longing and continuous. It's give and take. His hands are in his pockets while you cling onto him, and he's content with listening to your rambling, softly grinning and offering a hum to let you know he's paying attention. The little bubble of affection and comfort the two of you shared popped suddenly when a group of girls ran up towards you, with excited smiles and open arms like they were ready to pounce. "Oh my gosh! It's really you, Shudo-san!" One of them shouts, her fists bunching up in excitement while her friends follow. You are ultimately torn from your love interest and thrown to the side while they smother him, asking him for autographs and hugs and pictures. Your eyes narrow in annoyance when one girl presses her chest a little too close for your liking against his, her touch lingering for far too long. Your eyebrow twitches and you huff, crossing your arms and missing your little chimney already. It pleases you and gives some solace when all Todoroki does is mumble short answers and retains his usual stoic expression reserved for strangers, indicating no interest in entertaining them for much longer. However, the group didn't take the hints, and you glare at them, oohing and awing at the pro-hero while batting their eyelashes flirtatiously, even offering obscure suggestions. You couldn't stand to see them fawning over him like he was a fragile little rabbit at the pet store, as if he was everyone's to take. In your head, he was already yours. "Shudo-sen, please take a selfie with me. Please, please." She whines, pouting to what you assume could be adorable if Todoroki hadn't been so detached and completely unable to perceive another person's emotions. Thankfully, it wasn't the same for you. The poor boy didn't really know better, did he? So you take matters into your own hands, literally, when you pull his body close to yours and beam at them, already seeing the jealousy rise in their irises with a competitive flame. You made sure to rub your own chest against his arm, the limb now nestled between your cleavage, sending them a territorial stare but a polite tone as you speak. You don't notice, but he peers down at the action and his mouth goes agape, cheeks now a rosy hue. So close. "Sorry to interrupt your little fangirl session," you smirk mockingly, letting them know that a fan is all they'll ever be, "but we're on a date right now and I'd like my Shudo-kun back." Giggling victoriously, you pull him along, leaving them to sulk in their loss of a handsome hero they'll never have. You don't let go of his arm, relishing in the heat once more, and he's still having trouble comprehending what just happened, until it finally clicks. "Please don't feel jealous, Y/N," he murmurs, and once you meet his mismatched eyes he smiles down at you, stopping in front of the restaurant for a while longer. He stands in front of you, pulling you in by your waist, and you curse the puffy coat you're wearing as it acts as a barrier for the real contact you longing. In an act of intimacy, Todoroki grabs your fur-lined hood and pulls it over your head, holding his hands at the edges and lifting you closer to his appealing face. You reach out and touch the scar gently and he sighs, his breath creating a tiny cloud from the cold. "I have no interest in anyone else. It will always be you." You grin up sweetly, and he gently tugs you closer until your lips brush against his, the warmth you crave spreading throughout your entire body as you wrap your arms around his torso. Large hands cup your face as he holds you tenderly against him, and gradually he stops until the kisses become pecks and he leads you inside. Although to anyone else it may not seem like much, but the act made your heart swell and face flush shyly, and continued for the duration of the evening, with you feeding him bites from your sukiyaki bowl and him holding your hand from across the table, caressing his thumb over the knuckles with a serene smile. Sheet. As if this mission couldn't have got any worse, it did. You couldn't let the villains currently after your hide know that they had you in quite the sticky situation. You sprint through the half-empty streets, the civilians already moving to the side to make room for you, but you send a reassuring grin their way to let you know all is well, or all will be well. Funny, they never thought they'd see the day where a supposed hero is running away from the villains. 3 of them chase after you, cursing after you for exposing their hideout. Truth be told, you didn't need to explicitly go to the abandoned hospital. Your boss didn't say it was required. You just wanted to for a little extra adrenaline rush. The sound-absorbent shoes that you had specifically made accordingly to your quirk, to prevent circumstances like this from happening, ended up being your betrayer. You should really take them into the shop. The sole probably rubbed off too much. Regardless, you were here now, stuck between a rock and a hard place, until a pair of hands abruptly grab your torso and you're soaring off into the air as fast as wind. You recognize those hands better than anyone else's, and you grin knowingly, though you could at least try to look a little ashamed. After all, this would be around the 3rd time this month this had happened. Maybe you weren't as sharp as you used to be in your teen years. Still, you sought after excitement in any way you could and by any means necessary. The more danger you put yourself into, the better off you'd be. As soon as you land on the concrete rooftop of a nearby building, your savior takes off again, swooping below your line of sight, and you can only imagine the type of scolding you'll be receiving when he returns. It makes you giggle, but you promise yourself you'll try to be embarrassed this time. You make yourself comfortable on the hard and somewhat cold cement, an arm slung over your bent knee as the other stretches out in front of you, and you wait patiently. Screams of agony resonate from what you imagine to be the 3 stooges along with the slice of a particularly sharp feather. In less than 10 minutes, the winged hero is back and wears a playful glare on his handsome features. You pout remorsefully, twiddling with your thumbs, and he sighs, pushing up his visor and rubbing his eyes. You know he doesn't mind at all, he just wants to put up a show for you, knowing good and well that you'll be at it again in a week. How many times am I gonna have to keep saving your butt, Gamma? He uses your hero name as he scolds you, crouching down to your level, forearms balanced on his knees. I promise I won't do it again, Hawks. Your eyebrows furrow like a child getting caught in a lie, cheeks puffed out in an effort to look innocent. Man, you were getting good at this act. It worked like a charm. We both know that's bullshit, he cackles, grabbing your hand in his own and pulling you into a hug. One of these days you're really gonna get hurt, you know. I might not always be there. But yet you always are, you hum cheerily. You were right. Each and every time this had occurred, he had always swooped in and saved you again and again, and you knew he'd do it many more if he had to. You poke his nose affectionately, and you sit on his lap. Your legs are enclosed around his waist, and his legs are elongated underneath you. All he can do is kiss your puckered lips, and you smile happily, because he knows you're right. You really SCK major but at sneaking around. Hey! You whine when he flicks your forehead, slapping his hand away, and he smirks. It's my shoes, chicken nugget. They started squeaking out of nowhere. He arches a brow doubtfully, but nonetheless he wraps his arms around you, again taking off towards the sky and towards the direction of his loft. You squint from the brightness of the sun. Maybe you should consider getting some sunglasses or something. A couple static voices from his headset are muffled as he flies through the air, and he tries to make conversation with you. Complaining about his day, how it was so long and tiresome, and you almost felt bad for taking time out of the number 2 hero's day for your own reckless behavior, almost. You could only stay away from him for so long before you grew lonely. Now, cozied up in bed, you scratch behind his ears as he rests, well-deserved in your own opinion, but it's short-lived since he has to depart again in the morning. Usually before you woke up and began your own day, which started at around 9 a.m. sharp. Yes, It is incredibly less demanding than Hawk's job. No, you weren't going to admit to yourself that the villains your boyfriend fights get more action than you do. Deny. 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 You play with his feathers as he snores quietly into your hair, running a finger along the wispy edges and down to the base where you rub softly. He coos in response like a baby dove, and you grin, nuzzling your cheek on top of his head. If your evenings were going to be spent like this every time you got yourself into trouble, Hawks was going to have an adrenaline junkie as a girlfriend. A black face mask with smiling pointy teeth hooks around Dobby's pierced ears. The smell of sweat and liquor and the sound of the heavy bass that blares over the sea of people confirm that he's in the right place. Womb nightclub. He slides into a chair at the bar, waving down the bartender and asks for a whiskey on the rocks, and he waits. Scanning the crowd, he glances up at the second floor. The VIP lounge is cornered at the left, overlooking the first floor. Glass surrounds it and it appears to be tinted for privacy, bars encasing the perimeter. Lined with security. Invite only. It was around on the stool, an arm hung over the counter as he sips his drink, azure eyes searching for you to make your appearance. He'd been to a lot of parties every now and then. Mixers, cocktails, and birthdays, even raves. Some with people he didn't know and some with people he did. You'd always accompany him and he'd always tailgate you, because you were the life of the party. Dancing seemed to be your forte and he liked to watch you perform in front of him, but he'd prefer it if it was only the two of you, not in front of an audience. Looking back on it, that'd probably be how he met you. With an oversized sweatshirt and transparent leggings, probably off Molly or MDMA, at a rave a couple years back. He didn't know you nor recognize you, but he wanted to the second your eyes met. Giggling maniacally, drugged stupor, dancing the night away like you'd die if you didn't. He wanted the craziness in his life because he felt like it wasn't enough, it could never be enough. He had no idea how you got into the business. With Shigaraki, he seemed to be content with having a small group of elites, always turning people away, like if he bit off more than he could chew it'd drive him mad. Kurogyari found you roaming the streets, escaping your abusive ex-boyfriend and succumbing to the homeless shelters. Not knowing where to go next, traveling place to place, rooming with friends. Your eyes weren't like how they used to be. They were bloodshot and tired, clinging on to what life they had left in them, but they were still appealing. You had always been appealing. The second Dobby had found out about your past, he was already at your ex's door, burning his apartment complex down and leaving satisfied that the BSTRD wouldn't hurt you anymore. The neon lights alternate between yellow, blue, green, purple and pink until they pulse quickly and change the sequence. He watches it for a while before he makes eye contact by accident with a man upstairs, a hand with gold rings stacked until each knuckle gliding across the railing, wearing a crisp black suit and sunglasses. Dobby's stare narrows and he snaps his head away when a cheery voice enters his ears. You drape an arm over his shoulders and pull him into an embrace, the smell of your perfume intoxicating him by the second. He eyes your outfit, expecting something a little bit more fitting for a nightclub, but you wear the usual. Fishnets, plaid black and white skirt with a gray turtleneck that might he dare say really emphasized your assets. The only thing that may have been altered from your day-to-day style would be the black chunky heels. You pout teasingly when you run a finger down the bridge of his covered nose. What's wrong? You mad I didn't dress up for you? He bites his lip underneath the mask and he wants to tug it down and kiss you, but he just rolls his eyes. At least I tried to look unrecognizable. You snort, please. You still look like the same edgy bad boy that everyone knows and loves. He arches a brow and glances down at his own fit. A simple red and gray flannel over a black tee and the same pair of ripped jeans he wore every other day. Maybe he didn't really try that hard. You blink down at him and run your hands down the buttons before sliding back up to the collar. Hey, we're matching, he points out, running his thumb along the hem of your skirt, a warm hand on your upper thigh. You grin mischievously and move it to your waist, lips maneuvering their way under his dark fringe to his ear. Come dance with me. He follows you out into the group of people, all sweaty and laughing, and for a moment he's a bit revolted by the smell. People really do this every weekend? Couldn't be him. You tug on his hand, ushering him to the middle of the floor, and you wrap your arms around his neck. The music switches to a dance punk from the sultry rock it was playing when he first arrived, and the two of you dance. Granted, Dabi had never been a good dancer, so he just allows you to take the lead. You face away from him and he watches intently, already wanting to get this sheet over with so he could have you to himself back at home. His hand trails down your back as you bend forward, but rubbing against his crotch as you sway to the base. He grabs your hips when you face him again, and man, he wants to kiss you. Not now, not when you're both so close. Another man with sunglasses taps you on the shoulder and you raise a questioning brow. He invites you to the VIP section upstairs and you happily accept, leaving Dabi to complete the rest of the plan. He snakes his way through the drunken crowd and returns to his seat at the bar, the ice already melting and the glass leaves a wet ring on the wooden tabletop. He sips it anyway, but then cringes when it tastes more watered down than what he thought. That's what happens when you don't chug your whiskey right away. A voice purrs next to him. He glances over to see a woman with blonde hair swept over one eye, the other a serpent-like green. She smiles faintly and moves to touch his face, but he snatches her wrist, causing her to giggle. "Ah, don't be mean. I just want to get to know you a little better." He grimaces. If only the woman could see how disgusted he really is underneath the mask. "Cute teeth." She leans in. "Do they bite?" "You don't want to find out," he says coldly, not even bothering to look at her anymore. He hopes that she takes the hint, but of course not. She just keeps pushing. "I think I do, handsome, if I'm asking." He sees you laughing at whatever the man upstairs is saying, your arms holding onto the rail as the man sips his drink, not once taking his eyes off of you. Dabi can hear the whole conversation and it makes him sick. The man truly held no shame whatsoever, but regardless, you'll be going home with him, and he won't be going home at all. He taps the earpiece hidden behind a tuft of hair, mumbling, "Do we got him?" Followed by another burst of a giggle is his response, so he leaves his spot at the bar and commences phase 2. Your eyes darken when this filth of a man stares you down, grinning lustfully as he sends his men off. You keep up the facade and grin back. Now you're finally alone. They didn't even pat you down. What a silly rookie mistake. You rake a hand down his chest, running along too many gold chains and a silk button-up shirt. Now behind him you lean over his shoulder, arms hanging over, and he keeps on rambling, not even paying attention. Another mistake. You unsheath the dagger stored in your arm wrap, hidden under the long sleeves, and press the edge into his neck, not allowing him enough time to even say a word. It's quick and is over in seconds, your hands already wiping the knife clean on his jacket that's hung over a chair, and you make your way to the guards. The blue flames are already beginning to engulf the bottom half of the floor, crawling up the walls, and people are shrieking and trying to escape. It almost makes you laugh. You know they can't leave. When you reach the men in suits, you pivot on one foot and dodge their advances until you get all of them, a nice and simple stab wound in the middle of their chest, breaking past the sternum and into their heart. Once again, you clean your weapon and move to the fire escape just in time before the flames tag you. Police sirens and the fire truck's bell echo in the background as you two sprint between buildings, until you're safe in a back alley where the stench of dumpster juice and garbage taints the air. You recoil into Dabi's arms, the sirens slowly fading away into the distance as the cars speed by, the red and blue flights flickering over your faces. He smells like burnt ash and smoke, and it travels behind him when he follows you into your apartment. You sneer at him when he unhooks his mask and tosses it on the counter. Crossing your arms and leaning on one leg, you inquire playfully, "Cute teeth. Do they bite?" He pouts before he bursts into a short chuckle, snatching you up by your waist and throwing you over your shoulder, smacking you on your butt and carrying you to the bedroom. You know they do. Study, study, study. Ever since elementary, that was all you knew how to do best. That was it. No social life, no friends' birthday parties, no hanging out on the weekends. It wasn't that your parents forced you, it was just because of a goal you really wanted to reach. Call it insane, but that was all you needed to make you focus. Having a good career and a large sum of income was a promising future, if you said so yourself. Nobody else really saw the point in putting your all in something, but you liked controlling the outcome and knowing you have that control. There were a few other people in your class that were confused as to why you refused so many offers to date, to hang out, to do anything else other than study. They stopped after a week of trying. Instead of making friends, you occupied yourself with algebra homework in the library. It was quiet and safe from any background noise that would otherwise distract you, but of course that was too much to ask for on this particular day. I've been looking all over for you. Why were you hiding from me? A whiny voice contrasts against the usual silence of the library, and you look up from your papers scattered on the table and see a pair of annoyed yellow eyes. He takes a seat next to you, leaning down on the table and crossing his arms, glancing over at your work. Come on, stop studying already. I want to go get tonkatsu. 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 Kaminari sings and pokes at your forehead. No, you reply bluntly, scribbling away at writing numbers. You'd met him back during the beginning of the school year after he ended up suspended for beating up a group of boys that were being bullied. Always known for being overly arrogant and a troublemaker, everyone became scared of him and nobody cared to befriend him. You were the only one who bothered to show up at his house to bring him his missed schoolwork, seeing no issue with what he did since his heart was in the right place. Just probably not the right course of action. Normally for other people it would be considered a simple gesture, one out of kindness and not an invitation to stalk someone. He took it the other way, however, and out of nowhere he confessed his feelings for you after following you for a few weeks. Well, not completely out of nowhere. After overhearing his other alleged friends talk badly about him behind his back, you stood up to them, saying that they should apologize and learn to be decent people. That could have rendered his misconstrued feelings, otherwise it didn't make sense to you. Developing feelings for someone he didn't even know. Please. It's cold out and I want some. His eyes blink cutely up from his slouched position and you avert your eyes to the books again, suddenly feeling hot. It had been 5 months since school had began. 4 months since his romantic affections had started, and now it was going on 1 week since you recognized that you returned his feelings. You didn't know how to deal with them. You close your books shut and put them away in your bag, slinging it over your shoulder without a glance at him. Let's go, you mutter. He simply stares at you dumbfounded before scattering after you. He probably didn't even think about what would happen next if you were to say yes. He wiggles in his seat excitedly, and you sit across from him. The steaming bowls of ramen in front of you, yakisoba and his tonkatsu that he wanted so dearly. He holds out his chopsticks to you with some noodles with the clear intention of feeding you. Blushing, you open your mouth warily and he shoves it in, nearly causing you to choke. It's good, isn't it? He beams at you before continuing to shovel it into his mouth. You deadpan. So much for a romantic gesture. At least it saved you the embarrassment if it had gone in a different direction. No. Don't think about that. Too late. Why? Can I get a pork cutlet bowl and curry rice? You call out to a passing waiter and he nods a reply. Slurping your noodles hurriedly as an attempt to busy your mind from anything else, and he perks up in surprise. You eat a lot. He walks you home. He's been doing that a lot recently. Any reason to spend more time with you is good. That, and he hates saying goodbye. Sometimes he's gone for a few days before he sees you again. Ever since his confession, you'd been nothing short of a mess in your head. Always thinking about it, overthinking the littlest things, even getting jealous. He'd been getting into fights because of boys that had been simply trying to talk to you. Using any excuse to get away from him and study. Perhaps you overworked yourself. Maybe the thoughts were consuming you until you had no brain power left, and you passed out because of it. On the roof of the school building, looking up towards the sky, a appealing bright blue with a few clouds gliding by, is where you find yourself. You don't remember coming here, but you don't complain, until a familiar face comes into the view. He smiles down at you like one would at a lover, and again, you blush before abruptly sitting upwards. You grunt when he simply brings you back towards his lap, and caresses your hair, running his fingers through the strands. How long have I been asleep? Well, it's 2 p.m. now, he trails off. Your eyes widen. Lunch is over, I'm missing class. You sigh worriedly. Suddenly, it doesn't seem like a big deal the more he pets your head. After all, if it weren't for him, you wouldn't have known what the afternoon sky would look like. You don't know what happened, or what caused you to say next, but you found it being brought up your throat involuntarily. I'm happy that we met, Kaminari. A slight pink tints his cheeks and he grins brightly. Me too. Now summer break, you didn't know what to do with yourself. You considered taking a few summer classes just to get ahead, taking the same goal in mind with you, but he rendered it futile and wanted to go to the beach. You know why you agreed, and it was a chance to see him in swimming trunks. There was no need to lie to yourself. That and seeing him happy made you happy. You follow after him as he runs to an ice cream truck and grabs a popsicle for both you and him. Mina and Ciro join you guys in the sand, already slathering sunscreen on each other. Hey, they have surfboards. Let's go, hurry, she shouts, pumping her fists up in the air. You don't know how to surfboard, nor do you want to find out. You'd rather sit in your lounge chair and read a book over trigonometry. Kaminari grins at you excitedly, but whines cutely when you tell him that you won't be joining him. Fine, I'll stay here with you. He makes himself comfortable on a towel next to you and you pull out your book. He was always making sacrifices for you, and it made you feel guilty. A couple times he'd wanted to go on the huge Ferris wheel at the fair, and to the new skating rink, and to the zoo, all of which you had denied for your own sake of wanting to study. You close it and reach for his hand without looking him in the eyes. If you want to go, it's okay, Kaminari. He shakes his head earnestly. No. You scowl before brushing the hair out of your face, and take a bite out of your popsicle. You want to do it, right? Let's go. Mina and Ciro are already splashing around in the water, the wristbands connected to the boards as they wait for the next wave. Kaminari skips happily, still holding onto your hand, and scoops you up as he runs into the water. You flinch when the cold hits you, but he laughs, and for the moment that's all that matters. He walks you home. You're quiet on the way back, lost in your own thoughts before he cuts in, calling out your name to make sure you're listening. His face is too close and his smile is so handsome. Why does he keep doing this? He probably enjoys making you suffer. I'm done, you mumble, fists clenched. He blinks in surprise and digs his hands in his pockets, leaning back so he can look at you properly. Cheeks flushed, tips of your ears red, eyebrows furrowed, and you look incredibly cute to him. This is how you got him the first time. Kaminari, you breathe out shakily, staring at the ground shyly before looking him straight in the eyes. I love you. His reaction mimics your own. You can't believe you just said it out loud. That makes it more real. His mouth curls into a grin and he gleams down at you, pulling you closer by your shoulders. His lips meet your own in a soft kiss and you feel your eyes close, before Mina interrupts in loud cheers. See, Ciro. I told you this would happen. Shut up. It's winter. You stare out the window of the classroom and watch the snowflakes fall, chin in your palm as your group of friends continue talking behind you. Kaminari leans against your desk and blocks your notebook and pens. They all are talking about the culture festival that takes place where the students dress up and hold cafes and activities in their classroom. All you can think about is studying. Finals came and went and you were first in your class, but it didn't seem like much to you. It only made you feel worse. Kaminari grinned at you and gave you a large hug, but even that didn't help. You sit pensively, tapping your mechanical pencil on your desk in a rhythm, spinning it between your thumb and index finger. Even though you confessed, nothing had changed. The relationship stayed the same and you both just went along with it, but you found yourself thinking what the point of it all was, if it just ended up like this. Kaminari, you say sternly, causing him to hum a reply. Do you have a minute? With Christmas approaching, you had thoughtfully made simple gifts for the people you cared about the most. Over the years you thought that exchanging gifts was bothersome and a waste of time. If people wanted something, they should save up and buy it, not the other way around. You wait out in the hallway, some students pass by and you tap your toe on the tile nervously, fiddling with the wrapped box in your hands. He joins you after ending the conversation with Ciro and pokes his head out, leaning on the wall next to you. I wanted to give you this, you say softly, jutting the box towards him. He shakes it, humming with interest and smiles at you while he opens it. A bracelet made of blue string and multicolored beads make him eye it in wonder. I know it isn't much, but I made it. I love it. He grins, sliding it onto his wrist. You pull up your sleeves and reveal the same one, only smaller. Yours has the first letter of my name, mine has a K, you blush. We're matching. He grasps both of your hands in his own, mock tears in his eyes. I'll never take it off, Y/N. I love you. Why? He walks you home again. It was becoming a routine at this point. He rambles about how people complimented his bracelet and he explained to them that you are his, and he is yours, and you find yourself smiling because finally, after all this time, you know where you stand. You know that this wasn't for nothing. You know that it was worth it. Hawks wasn't aware of the fact that they had a new office girl. That said a lot, considering it was his own agency. Nobody bothered to run it by him to see if they actually needed help around the place, and he doesn't remember even requesting extra assistance, but he wasn't one to dwell on it for long. Especially now that he'd seen you. He watches you with curious eyes and an amused smirk as you scurry around his office, placing a coffee on his desk with steam feathering up from the cup, and organize the papers scattered on his desk. Now, personally, he liked having a messy workspace. In his eyes, it made things easier to see and locate, and it wasn't like he really wanted to look at those meaningless things. All it would end up being is applications upon applications, which seemed rather important, but he was very picky in regards to recruitment. That would explain his irritation for not being the one to interview you for himself, and he sure as hell missed that opportunity. You take a step back to look at the now neat and clean desk and sigh, clasping your hands together with the tiniest simper of a smile. Then, you stride towards the giant window that looks out towards the skyline. You stand there admiring the view, and so does he. Despite wearing black heels, you still appear to be shorter than him, which he found cute. You wear a white blouse with frills adorning the buttons and a plain gray skirt that frames your curves in all the right places, and he thought that compared to his own outfit, you were either overdressed or he was underdressed. Either way, you look DMN good. He spends a questionable amount of time gazing at your butt and your legs. So much time that he didn't even notice that you now face him with a hand on your chest in shock, and he flinches when he makes eye contact with you. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you were in here. You pace towards him with an embarrassed smile. He swallows hard, truly underestimating just how appealing you'd be. My name's Y/N. I'll be helping around the office. It's so nice to meet you, Mr. Hawks. Your voice is as sweet as the perfume that reaches his nose when you reach out to shake his hand. No need for the formalities, Dove. You blush slightly at the nickname and it doesn't go unnoticed by him. Just call me Hawks, he grins, and you nod happily. His hand lingers longer than it should have and you glance between the intertwined limbs and him, but he doesn't take the hint. Your whole body flares up and you didn't expect your boss to be this friendly and delicious. I'm sorry I haven't been around to introduce myself. He motions over to his desk, slumping into the rolling chair with a relaxed huff. This past week's been pretty hectic. I understand, you hum, rubbing your arm nervously. If there's anything you need though, don't hesitate to ask me. He lifts his feet up onto the desk and waves 2 fingers at you. I'll see you around. You make a sound of agreement and take your leave, hips sashaying out of the room, and he finds himself staring again. Around the office there wasn't that much to do. In all honesty, you didn't even need to be there for extra help, but he was going to make use of you somehow, so he upgraded you to be his new assistant. Running errands, organizing his office space, which you seemed to enjoy, receiving phone calls in his absence, and replying to emails. It became pretty mundane, but he loved seeing you walk in and out of his office, and he grew to like you as more than just his assistant. That showed in daily conversation. He would throw in a couple of flirtatious comments about what you're wearing, how you smell, that you're cute, and nearly every day he made a goal to get you to blush at least once. Every now and then you would retort with your own flirty comeback, and he loved it. All the pining, the SXL tension buildup, all led to his feelings increasing by the day. Usually he wouldn't bother to use his quirk for such a little occurrence, but he couldn't help it. Seeing you by the coffee machine being chatted up by one of your coworkers, probably about something lame like office supplies, yet deep down he felt a little betrayed. You were laughing along at what he assumed to be a joke, and when the guy placed his hand on your shoulder, something inside him told Hawks to do something about it, so he did. He plucked a small feather off of his wings and sent it flying through the air, just to get underneath the hem of your skirt and pull you away from him. The force surprised you, and you stumbled backwards, using the table to stabilize you before you're pulled further away, in the direction of Hawk's office. He shuts the door behind you and you blink at him in confusion, reaching underneath your skirt and pulling out the feather. You did that? Yeah, he sighs, scratching his neck sheepishly with a sliver of a smirk. Sorry. I guess I got a little jealous. You don't miss the way his chocolate eyes turn dark, and you smirk at him. Come on. There's nothing to be jealous of. You were right, there really wasn't, especially because he knew of the growing crush on your boss and might he dare say, it was reciprocated at least tenfold. That was clear the minute he caught you in his office. Holding the feather close to your face, you blow on it and it makes him shudder. That catches your eye, so you go the extra mile to tease him, gently kissing the tip of the feather. And there's that reaction you're looking for. A deep blush tints his cheeks and you giggle, eyes not leaving from one another. Hawks can't believe it. He hasn't even kissed you yet and his feather gets the honors of doing so. He leans back on his desk and chuckles lowly. You saunter over and hold it out to him with a firm grip, and he uses it to tug you towards him. That's very cute of you, Dove. I know. Serves you right considering you tease me every day I see you. His eyes become lidded the closer you get to him, and he can smell that sweet scent of yours again. I tease you, huh? I don't recall doing that, he replied airily. You hum, and he leans in without realizing, and you chuckle softly and gently push him away by the forehead. I don't think it's a good idea, Hawks, as much as I want to. I'm your boss, aren't I? He lifts a brow and pouts. I thought you were my assistant. I am. That's exactly why I think it's not a good idea. You laugh coyly, brushing a strand of hair behind your ear. Well, what if I need your assistance elsewhere? He tilts his head to the side, eyes glimmering up at you, hoping that you take the hint and bite the bait. You tap your finger on your chin thoughtfully, mumbling, "What would that be?" He grabs your hand and places it on his cheek, pressing a kiss into your palm, and you breathe out shallowly, eyes hooked on his actions. His free hand cups your cheek, feeling warmth spread beneath his fingertips as he travels to your bottom lip, inserting a finger into your mouth cautiously. You take it with ease, skiing gently on the tip and nipping on the pad, sending lustful waves straight to his pelvis. Your tongue swirls around it, and when he removes it, string of saliva follows after it, and that's when he can't take it anymore. So he pushes himself up to meet your lips with his own, bending down to your height and hands gripping your hips. Like a magnet, you gravitate towards him and wrap your arms around his neck, moving your mouth in sync with his. There's a knock at the door and he grunts bitterly but goes to answer it anyway as you stand there innocently, a facade for whoever was interrupting your one-on-one time with your handsome boss. You're needed for patrol, sir, the man says, adjusting the clipboard in his hands. His glasses slant forward on his nose and he looks a bit disoriented. How many times do I gotta tell you not to call me that? I'll be down in a sec. The man nods and briskly walks away, the door shutting with a click and you're left alone with him again. You admit that you were disappointed. More than once you found yourself fantasizing about him having his way with you in the office, bending you over his desk and making a mess out of you. It happens so often that you think he noticed the way that you pressed your thighs together whenever he smiled at you, passing by your little cubicle and being excruciatingly fine as always. Even the tiniest twinges of jealousy would hit when Maruko would hop into the floor, but even you knew that it was simply friendly banter that was nothing more and nothing less. What's with that look? Hawks grins, cupping your face with both hands to bring your sight up to him. Veering into your ear, nibbling on the lobe, and you intake a sharp breath. You want more, is that it? Soft laughter graces your ears when you meekly nod, and again, you find a familiar knot forming between your thighs. He grabs his jacket and visor and hooks his index finger under your chin, still smiling. We're not done here, sweetheart. Be safe, Hawks. You got it. With a two-finger salute, he's out the door, leaving you to collect yourself and head out for the day. He doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that when he's alone after a particularly long and hard day, he'd prefer it if he had someone there to relieve him of pent-up stress. Preferably you. It confuses him to be so enamored with someone he only knew at a surface level, and he was a disbeliever of love at first sight. Maybe lust, but definitely not love. But he did like you, he really did. So much so that he found himself dipping a hand beneath his boxer shorts, laying flat on his back with one knee bent and the other outstretched. already so dim and hard just at the mere thought of you and that first kiss you shared. Then, he's a grown but man and you got him feeling like a high school kid with a crush experiencing PBRY all over again. The next week was filled with sneaky kisses and light but grabs by Hawks, and of course, the rise of even more pent-up SXL frustration. He didn't make it easy for you, either. Occasionally you'd walk by the large glass window of the meeting room, where he sat rather boredly, an arm slung over the back of the chair casually, before his eyes perked up from seeing you, swiping a pink tongue across his teeth as he flashed a grin. Then, every time you'd even talk to your male colleagues for a simple thing like needing paper clips, he was there to remind you who you unofficially belonged to. You knew it, he knew it, and it was only a matter of time for one of you to jump the other in a frenzy. It just so happened that today would be that day. It was a Friday, so everyone in the office was eager to leave early for their plans during the weekend, rendering the entire floor nearly empty, if it weren't for you two. Hawks had only requested you to stay for an hour past the usual to sort through some paperwork. He honestly didn't plan on it happening today, but when you came into work with a white button-up shirt tucked into a tight black skirt, black transparent tights and black heels, you struck an unintended fire inside of him. The tights elongated your legs and his eyes couldn't stop trailing up and down the seams. When he spotted you hiking your skirt up to scratch your thigh mindlessly, he noticed that they weren't just tights, they were thigh-highs, with dainty lace detail at the top. Yeah, he was pretty much already F'd. Now, he had you all to himself. Nobody else to interrupt, and all the time in the world to unravel you into a whimpering mess. You're straddling his lap, skirt above your hips, your mouth leaving wet kisses on his neck and jaw, his arms holding you steady, and he untucks your shirt and a few buttons. He wondered if you planned this all along, coming into his office dressed like the CC assistant you were. You grind lightly against his crotch, already growing harder by the second. Breathy groans release from his mouth before you capture his lips again, moving faster against the sensation. Feeling his member strained in his jeans against your seat had you whimpering as your tongue swirled with his. A loud knock came from the door and you two freeze, and he quickly pushes you below his desk, scooting his chair forward to hide you. The person who knocked didn't need permission to enter, it seems, because the door opened a few moments later. Hawks anticipated that happening, and you were somewhat thankful because now, you were facing the large bulge in his breathes. Grinning devilishly, you palm it gently before running a finger down the length. Endeavor. I didn't, expect you this late. Hawks laughs anxiously, his legs moving in and out to get you to stop. I could say the same to you. I just wanted to drop off some paperwork that your assistant requested. She emailed me and said she was still here, but I assume she left. A stack of papers lands on the desk with a smack. You could have faxed it over, Hawks mutters through gritted teeth. You rub him harder, reaching through his pockets and gripping the length at a rather awkward angle, but you wanted to feel, and you wanted to make him struggle. That makes the hero cough awkwardly, a shaky breath entering through his open mouth. Endeavor raises a brow but doesn't bother to question it, only waving his hand and taking his leave. See you Monday, Hawks. Make sure she gets those. He waits a few moments before rushing up and locking the door for safety measures, and he twists around to see you brushing off your legs from paper shavings that were on the floor, cleavage practically bursting at the seams of your blouse. Walnut eyes narrow back at your smiling face playfully. Did you enjoy that? He sauntered over to you as you blink up at him, biting back a laugh. Are you gonna finish the job or what? He whispers against your neck, and your hands were already fiddling with his belt and yanking down his zipper, him shrugging off his jacket and tossing that and his shirt on the floor. Nimble hands cascade down muscular arms and shoulders and he rests his forehead against yours, watching you trace down his well-defined abdomen. You sink to your knees, tugging down his boxers and his pee-pee bounces upwards. His hands grip the edge of the table while you work him, your mouth engulfing his length as much as you could, spreading your spit along the area you could cover and using your hand to get the rest. With hollowed cheeks, you SCK while rising, humming happily as he grips your hair. The groans he makes are angelic, throaty and needy, searching for release. Abruptly, he pulls away as soon as you swallow a few times, making you gaze up at a breathing mess, his eyes closed and mouth hanging open. Holy shit, he breathes heavily, and you grunt when he sits you up on his desk, your panties being yanked below your knees, and he sits up in his chair, admiring your open legs. He blows cool air on the exposed glistening flesh, and you bend back, using your palms for support. Your back arches without him even having to touch you. Hands massage your inner thighs, his breath becoming hotter the closer he gets, until his mouth closes around your skin harshly. You cry out softly, giving up and just laying back on the hard surface to thoroughly enjoy it. His tongue darts out to rub against the sensitive bud, and a long finger is inserted in you. He curls it against the ribbed underside, and you as he increases his speed, bringing you closer to the brink with each brush of his tongue and beckoning of his finger. A deep huff escapes your mouth when he pulls away, and your eyes flutter open in discontent. Sweat began to bead at your forehead, and you tried to correct your breathing. Hawks licks his lips before rolling them into his mouth, and it is on his finger to clean it. You know, he draws out, ever since I saw you in here, the very first day we met, I dreamed of you being bent over my desk. You laugh weakly. That's funny because I thought the same. Really? Why don't we bring that fantasy to life then, turtle dove? You slide off of the surface just to relax face first against it, your butt tilted upwards and back arched, wiggling to entice him even more, and he smirks, lining up with your entrance, and eases himself into you. With a long drawn-out groan, you attempt to meet his moves, but it grows difficult as he gains momentum. His fingers weave into your hair, and he pulls at the nape, and he filling you up to the hilt, delightfully stretching you out to meet his girth. You take me so well, chickadee, he purrs out, his grasp on your waist tightening. Are you gonna come for me? You could only manage a hum of approval as he continues, skin slapping against skin rapidly, and his hands grab your wrists, holding them behind your back. The real question is, am I gonna let you come? You whimper and beg, please. I don't know, sweetheart, he murmurs tauntingly, his free hand massaging a cheek of your butt before he smacks it roughly. It stings and causes your face to scrunch up in discomfort. You don't sound like you want to come. Yes, I do. Please let me come, Hawks, please. He grins lazily before his hand releases your wrists and reaches in front of you to rub your sealty once more. That's a good girl, he coos, the rhythmic flicks of his thumb making you whine out his name, the word falling off of your lips like a chant before you become utterly undone. The knot in your pelvis expands until it tingles throughout your whole body, the feeling leaving you tired and breathless yet euphoric. Soon after, Hawks follows suit, still sheathed inside of you, pumping himself in a daze until he's sure nothing is left. He places a kiss on your clothed shoulder and realizes he never got to see your melons. Oh well, maybe next time in a more private location, like his loft. You slowly stand, adjusting your skirt and top, swiping a tissue between your folds to clean up the leaking substance before studying the now disorganized workspace, to which you frown. Man, I just cleaned this up today too. He reaches around and pecks your cheek, chuckling, don't worry, I like it messy. You can't help but wonder whether or not he was talking about the desk. An outbreak of an unknown virus had set a plague into the entirety of the world. Just a simple slip, somebody's mistake, but there was no face to the name. The news called it SANS. Nobody knew where it derived from, the origin, only deeming it dangerous, and the metropolis you resided in was now under lockdown. Multiple people had dropped dead or fell ill on the brink of it, some barely scraping by. Hospitals had no idea what to make of it, how to treat it, and doctors scrambled into finding a cure. It was apparent that after the first year, there would be no savior elixir or antibiotic. Whatever was out there, was out to kill, to take as many victims as it could and drag them to their graves. Loiterers had taken advantage of the situation, with you being one of the many that scavenged through old convenience stores, searching for what little portions of food and medication you could find. Weaponry was scarce, and it was almost a privilege to have it. Luckily, your sword and pistol had come quite in handy, and you didn't so much as sleep without it being loaded. It was unknown what the virus caused. The symptoms were vague and only told to those that asked, the government no longer giving out information without a price. This is what turned the whole city into a chaotic apocalypse in the first place. People who civilians entrusted turned their backs on those they promised to protect, now only caring for themselves. Everyone followed suit, splitting up into teams of 3 or more, or some roamed the streets alone. That was what you preferred to do, not that you had much of a choice. As soon as the pandemic began, everyone you once knew was now separated. Your friends, your family, your neighbors. All living and fending for themselves like the rest of the population. Worry tugged on your chest more than you'd like. Being relatively strong and skilled, you had no reason to be, that is if you were only concerned for yourself. But that wasn't the case. A year ago, you would have considered your life to be picture perfect. The perfect job, perfect boyfriend, and perfect future. It had already been planned out for you. That was the one thing you had control over, and now you didn't know if you would live or die the next day. Still, your mind often traveled elsewhere, to a time where you could imagine yourself at a big wedding, with the overly extravagant gown, surrounded by all of your family members and friends. You'd see your husband-to-be at the end of the aisle and fall in love with him all over again. Give or take a few years, you'd fall PRGNT. Another few years, you're sending your child to school. Wishing them a goodbye and leaving them cute notes in their lunchbox. That was all make-believe, a false glimmer of hope in what was now your everyday life. It made things easier to dwell on what used to be, to dream of what your life could have been instead of facing the harsh reality. Your boyfriend was what you would come to miss the most, and out of everything that happened in the past, there would have been things you preferred to do differently. Maybe not to yell at your mom so much, or try taking out the trash when she asked you to. Little faults here and there that if you had a time machine, you would go back and change. Maybe, just maybe, they would make a difference. With him, you wouldn't have had it any other way. He had vibrant red hair and matching eyes, a sharp-toothed grin that resembled that of a shark, but you found it charming. His compassion towards others and determination to improve himself each passing day left you smitten. In a sense, he had handed down that torch to you, and you held it proudly. During the evening hours, when dusk began to set and the moon rose from the horizon, there would be many wandering souls, searching for solace from the harsh cold or the scalding heat. In either case, you would be there to offer aid in any way you were needed. Never turning away a hand and always giving, not caring if they had anything to offer in return. Some would stay and some would go, always in search for something better. One night in particular, there was something off in the distance that caught your eye. Like someone or something within your gut told you to reach out and help. The figure limps, dragging their left foot behind the rest of their body, and their face comes into view, the bonfire casting a shadow across a bloody and beaten countenances. You run towards them, chest risen with optimism and heart racing because you knew that it couldn't have been a coincidence. Help up please. His eyes are lidded, blinking up at you as your arms cradle their body, slowly going limp in your grasp. Red hair and black roots cling to his sweaty forehead as his head lolls into your chest, and you drag him towards the shelter. It doesn't seem that he recognized you off the bat, not that you expected him to, but you did without even so much as a confirmation. With gentle hands, you wrap a bandage around the cleaned and sterile wound on his side, a deep gash most likely caused by a knife or a bullet that grazed the skin. He was incredibly lucky that it didn't puncture, otherwise it would have injured vital internal organs. The tattered clothes he wore were stained with blood, and you run them through a bucket of water with dish soap, attempting to scrub out the remains. A low groan emits from the bed, and you twist around, eyes meeting with those very same crimson hues. He tries to focus on your face, you can tell it by reading the furrow of his brows and the concentration in them. Like a light bulb, it clicks, and his features visibly brighten like the sun poking through the clouds on a rainy day. A small, relieved smile grows on his lips, and you feel tears brimming your waterline, threatening to spill down your cheeks if you so much as blinked. "You're alive," he chokes out, breaking into a strangled cough, and immediately you're at his side, holding his hand and feeling his forehead and flushed cheeks. "So are you, but you have a fever. Let me get you a rag." You dip a cloth into a fresh bucket of chilled water and place it above his eyes, the same pair that never leave you while watching your lips tug downwards in worry. "I thought I'd never see you again," he breathes, ignoring your attempts to ask him about any pain or discomfort in his wounds. You blink rapidly, but the tears run down regardless, and you hold his hand up to your mouth and kiss it. "I'm so glad you're alive, AG." A broken grin is your response, and you lean down to peck his mouth, his nose, and his cheekbones. "Promise me something," he says, crimson eyes silently pleading. You nod, swiping a thumb over the back of his hand. "Don't leave me ever again." "I promise." Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, society's top-ranking officials stalling at putting an end to the virus. It was obvious that there was a cure, seeing them traveling on broken televisions that broadcasted every Sunday in the windows of stores across the city. To where, who knew? All that you were aware of was that you were stuck, abandoned, left forgotten. Food had become a commodity, with every person you came across begging for a bread ration in exchange for weapons or money. Constantly, you denied, and gifted them a loaf for free if you had it on hand. Some were much less fortunate, and died right in front of you, their bodies laying cold and stiff on the side of the streets. Dying of starvation, and quite possibly disease. The life you now lived had changed you. It hardened you, and made it less and less easier to feel compassion towards those who reached their demise. Becoming numb, apathetic to those decaying bodies like it was everyday thing, but it really was. Even though it shouldn't be. Kirishima kept you sane, grounded almost, and rose your spirits as you laid on his chest, listening to the heartbeat that told you that we're all humans, looking for reason under every stone and crevice. Looking for purpose behind the catastrophe. You had found yours long ago. How much longer do you think we have? The steady thump 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 of the contracting organ, steadily pumping blood in and out of veins and capillaries. It felt like you had waited centuries to hear that sound, waiting to know that he's alive. Well, it can't last forever. Peck to your hair. Damp and freshly washed, with the aroma of lavender. His favorite smell. But I'd say in a couple years' time, things will be back to normal. What if they don't? Calloused hands cup your jaw, rubbing a thumb across your cheekbone tenderly. It's not like you to be so negative, he teases, his lips pressing gently to the tip of your nose. The bonfire cackles softly in the distance, the only source of light in the dark evening air, and shadows dance across his face as you peer up at him. We should try and find the silver lining. If there isn't one, carpe diem. No use in worrying about something you can't control. It was so like him to conveniently bring up one of the many life lessons he'd taught you over the years, all of which you took into consideration, but were fearful of trying, that one especially. Like a train conductor, you could change paths and take new routes. Explore, but always stay on right lane. There was nothing right about the situation you were in, nor were you sure about the silver lining. All that mattered in that moment was you and him and the stars as your witness. You grin knowingly, eyes gleaming as he studies your face, enamored. Still as breathtaking as he was that long time ago. He captures your mouth in a kiss, a fervent and promising kiss that reassured you. Everything will be okay as long as you're with me. His hands trail down your arms, to your hips, pulling you towards his warm body. One leg is nestled between his legs, the other elongated. Arms wrapped around each other in what seemed like an eternal embrace. It's been too long, he murmurs, peppering kisses down the base of your neck until he grunts and contorts his face in discomfort. "Ag, don't strain yourself. That wound is only a week old." A soft hand pushes down on his clavicle so he lays flat, and you straddle him, pelvis weighing down on his own, careful not to brush against the deep purple contusions that splatter across the light skin. "I know, but that doesn't mean I'm glass." It's a silent challenge, one that you don't want to accept but can't help but mull over it the more you stare into those crimson hues. Dangerous and risky, but inviting nonetheless. So you surrender, letting the pads of his fingers lift up your shirt and tug over your head, nipples chilled from the exposure to the air. He cups your birs, massaging gently and barely ghosting the buds with his thumbs. You find his lips again, but this time it's more urgent. Saying that you have all the time in the world yet the clock is still ticking. His hips bucked up to your own, the sensation of his hardened member protruding through his sweatpants. With eager movements, he lifts it so it sits against his stomach and yanks down his breathes, sighing in relief when you reach for him. Stroking gently, rubbing the tip of his pee-pee and coating his length with pre-cum until spit comes into the equation. You hollow your cheeks, humming in delight when he pushes your head down to take all of him, up and down until he's gasping and groaning your name. You stand, removing your shorts and panties, and mount him once more, carefully eyeing his reaction when you engulf him, inserting him in all his girth and length until there's nothing left. I missed this. I missed you, sitting up on his elbows and watching you sift upwards, rising until your sweet cavern accepts his pee again and again. AG, you mule, eyelashes fluttering and jaw slack, that familiar but once abandoned feeling of white-hot pleasure scorching the knot in your stomach the faster you go. I can't dash. Understanding immediately, he flips your bodies without missing a beat, and you cry out as he plunges himself deep into you, pressing his chest against yours and desperately moving towards his release. An arm is wrapped underneath you, the other laying beside your head, gripping the sheets. So good that it feels so good, he breathes out, warm breath meeting your ear. I love you. Whether it was those words that you yearned for, or the way he rocked his hips at such an intense speed, all of the pressure became undone. At last, you finally found it. Your silver lining was hidden behind strands of wild vermilion waves and light soft skin, beneath the rubble of shattered buildings and skyscrapers and the smog that shrouded the city like a large gray blanket. He was your hope, that speckle of light that lit up the pitch-black hallway. His ends become more high-pitched the closer he reaches his end, burrowing himself deeper, ignoring the pounding ache in his ribs. You watch with lidded eyes as his eyebrows push together, mouth hanging ajar and heavy breaths and whines leaving. Come for me, AG, you crooned, cupping his face with gentle hands before tugging on his hair. I love you so much. I love you. 3 years later. Water. Water was the one thing that hadn't left your mind since you foolishly wandered into the desert with Kirishima. Somehow, someway, he always wound up injured, biting off more than he could chew when he went after a few mice, on the way stepping in an oasis ridden with traps. Their placer was nowhere to be found. The canteen attached at your backpack held only ounces of water, and you were parched yet refused to drink. The blazing heat that touched the sand, the sun's rays nearly blinding as they reflected off the tiny grains, it all looked so bright. There had been some rumors. You didn't want to believe them, but desperation spiked when they spoke about the haven. A safe place, with camps and aid tents to help anyone that reached it, and a light blue lake in the center of a lush forest. You heard it on the news, those same televisions signaling for you to fight your way out. It called to you, and so you followed. How naive of you to be so reckless, giving in to your unconscious demands of wandering into the unknown. But you knew life had to be more than this. You knew whatever higher being had in mind for you, it wouldn't happen if you sat in the makeshift sanctuary made out of busted cars and motor parts. That was the risk you were willing to take, for both you and Kirishima. A ferocious wind and the clipping of blades becomes overbearing, and you hastily cover your ears, the sand blowing up in waves and momentarily blinding you from the aircraft that lands just yards away. Beings in white suits and black headgear emerged from the descending staircase, and you collapse, unable to carry the weight of your boyfriend's body on the improvised stretcher combined with the insatiable thirst. You breathe, but the breaths are shallow and shaky as the beings walk closer and closer, the words they shout blurred and undecipherable. With eyes closed and mind slowly going blank and vacant, you succumb to the blackness that envelopes you. There's a ringing in your ears when you come to. Your mouth is dry and your lips are cracked, and multiple aches and pains derived from what you could only assume are lesions. Dried blood sticks to all the corners where a straight limb bends, and you immediately crave a shower. A rag. Anything to help you feel less disgusting. Once the rattling disperses, you're left with the steady beeping of a heart monitor in an otherwise silent room. Blinking once, twice, 3 times, and your eyes are open, staring hazily into the glaring white walls. To your right, there's a window that leads to nothing but what appears to be a dead end. In a panic, when thoughts of Kirishima appear in your clouded mind, you begin to worry. There's a door by the window, and it captures your attention when the handle clicks open, revealing a smiling blonde woman in a uniform of some sort. You're awake, thank goodness, she sighs in relief. You raise your brows at her when she palpates the veins in your arm. Her fingers are achingly cold. Where am I? Where's AG? She tilts her head in confusion as she checks the needle injected into your wrist, continuing into a system of thin tubes connected to a clear bag labeled saline solution. It hangs from a metal pole that swivels as she moves it. Your vitals look stable. That's a good sign. Where's AG? I'll bring you some water, you must be thirsty. She leaves, the door slamming behind her. You kick your legs and thrash around, but it's no good. It's as if you're strapped into the bed, and although it felt so good to finally sleep in something that wasn't rocky and rigid, you had to find a way to get out of it. Suddenly, a voice cuts into the quiet and you scan the room, looking for the origin. A speaker in the ceiling. Y/N, the voice calls. A male. You have no recollection of the events that occurred, do you? Tell me where AG is, please. I have to know he's safe. Huh. There's a shuffling of papers. Ah, the black-haired young man? He's alive and well. You release a breath you didn't know you held in. May I ask you some questions? You just did. You mumble and set your sights on the milky wall. Can you tell me about the last thing you remember? It was difficult, your memory still foggy and catching up to your present self, but you make an attempt. I saw a helicopter and people that looked like astronauts. Yes, that's right. You fainted afterwards, correct. You nod. Good. Do you know where you are? A hospital? The intercom goes static and shuts off before you get an answer. You don't bother to beg for more conversation, only concerned with where Kirishima was located. You wouldn't put it past them to even be honest with you about his status, so why listen to the voice anyway? Despite them saving your life, you can't trust these people yet. Not after what you've been through. Under nobody's fault but your own is what you tell yourself. He could be dead and you would have never known, yet you brought him to his destiny, and you might as well had gone with him. Be with your silver lining. The smiling woman returns, the corners stretching to her ears as she hands you the tiniest bottle of water you'd ever seen. Your eyes narrowed and you snatch it, unscrewing the cap and sipping quickly as she stares at you patiently. She radiated the aura that of a motherly figure and you can feel the tension between your neck and shoulders dwindle. Can I see him? See who, sweetie? My boyfriend, AG, has black hair and red eyes, you can't miss him. She crosses her arms in pensive thought before gazing into the abyss of the window. Go to bed, dear. And she's back to grinning, and your shoulders relax from the sockets as if she'd uttered a lullaby. You can see him tomorrow morning after you get a good night's sleep. A glass container, about 200 milliliters, emerges from the pocket of her white coat and she inserts the liquid inside it into a different clear pouch. I just woke up from a coma. She saunters back out of the room, and her eyes don't seem like they're even looking at you. Good night. 2 months later. Cafeteria food had to be the worst type you'd ever tasted, and that said a lot considering you hadn't eaten a cooked meal in 5 years or so. What they served was equivalent to dough and twigs. You weren't exactly sure what was in the mixture, but just the sight of it curved your appetite. Kirishima sat on the other side of the glass window, poking at the same mush, and sends you a toothy grin. Every time you see him he grows healthier, becoming fuller around his cheekbones and thicker on his arms. So unlike the frail and malnourished Kirishima that accompanied you on your years-long journey. He mouths words at you but it's impossible to read his lips. You yourself had felt better. Apparently there had been underlying issues that you weren't aware you had, but they fixed it. They, being the nurses and healthcare workers that checked in on your condition bi-weekly. The intercom had promised you that the goal was near and approaching rapidly the more you improved, and for once, you held on to that hope and ceased worrying. For yours and Kirishima's sake. Shaggy black hair was pulled back into a ponytail and you were surprised that they allowed him to keep the white bandana that he wore. You didn't have anything remotely personal, so it didn't matter that your old clothes were discarded and new ones took their place. Old memories clung onto the tattered shreds and it was something you'd rather forget. A new beginning. 1 week later. The crisp breeze of the wind blows through the strands of your hair. You gaze out into the water, the flat stones skipping across the surface, and Kirishima grins proudly out the corner of your eye. Forest air was different from the air you were used to. It wasn't burnt or polluted and it was cleaner, growing more fresh and clean every day. Warm fingers intertwined with your own, tugging your hand closer to his chest until you fall on top of him. The rhythmic thump 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 pounds beneath your ear and warmth spreads as if it's his blood circulating within your own arteries, a transfusion that causes a rueful smile to spread across your cheeks. You were right, AG, you mumbled suddenly. I should have believed you. About what? When you said that things would get better, to find our silver lining. I didn't believe you at the time, but I should have. I'm sorry. His mouth pulls downwards in a disapproving frown, and his eyebrows crumpled together in confusion for a split second. You nearly missed it. Well, did you find it? Pecking his cheek, you twist your body so your legs fall on top of his lap. Your free hand runs through freshly dyed tendrils that shine a brighter shade of scarlet under the sun. He grabs your chin between his index finger and thumb, grazing over the skin as he pulls you closer to his appealing face, capturing your lips in a swift and loving kiss. You draw back slightly, just enough to gaze at him with a blissful smile. I didn't have to. It was there all along.